about that. Yeah. Okay. I will go to these. I don't know why. It's not that I don't trust you. Well, she was like, bad. I only saw the data. There was a data. I didn't have a lot of time, so I brought you to try to do my own analysis. So that very last minute, whatever. They are. I actually that really are oh no. Yeah. Okay. And if you I mean, yeah, I will. Everything's going on fine. That'll be done. Very large Excel sheets. So well past my data. I can share it with you. Yes. I put together, yes, a student group, high school, grade. I'll share it this week. I just finished it today. That's what that's what I
All right. Go ahead and get started here. Do I have a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Roundtree, second by Ms. Franklin. Any discussion? Ms. Osborne, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guidry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to certify closed session that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Franklin, second by Dr. Roundtree. Any discussion? Ms. Osborne, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guidry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to long-term suspend student A?
Second?
Motion by Ms. Franklin, second by Ms. Purcell. Any discussion? Ms. Osborne, please call the roll.
Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guidry,
Yes.
Ms. Parton, Ms. Purcell,
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to long-term suspend student B?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Franklin, second by Ms. Bond. Any discussion? Ms. Osborne, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Dr. Guidry,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Purcell,
Yes.
Roundtree,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. And do I have a motion to return student C to school?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Bond, second by Dr. Roundtree. Any discussion? Ms. Osborne, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Dr. Guidry,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Purcell,
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. All right. Next up, our student representatives tonight are Jomana Amin from Christiansburg High School and Naomi Ramos Mendoza from Eastern Montgomery High School. Will you please read our mission and belief statements?
MCPS is an innovative educational community. We value diversity and we are committed to equity and inclusion. MCPS empowers learners to realize success in an ever-changing global society through collaboration with communities, families, staff, and students. MCPS provides a safe, engaging learning environment and an intentional exposure to positive social, emotional, and academic experiences.
All students can learn in order to pursue their dreams. Schools are safe places of joy, wonder, and creativity. Every person deserves to be loved, valued, and respected. Kindness is an essential skill of a responsible, productive community member. The diversity of our community is one of our greatest strengths. All people deserve equitable access to opportunities and resources. Every child deserves an advocate. Honoring the voices of students and other stakeholders strengthens the school community. Open communication and feedback are vital to our growth. Learning and teaching are collective efforts that begin at birth and involve the entire community. Relationship building and high expectations are foundational to student success.
Okay, great. Thank you both. Our next item of business is the student representative reports. Jomana, do you have a report from Christiansburg High School?
Yes. Since our previous update at the school board meeting last week, CHS has had the following events and celebrations to share. The CHS Theater Department hosted the Pirates and Princesses event this past Saturday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. 9th and 11th graders completed the Youth Risk Behavior Survey this past Wednesday to gather some valuable data to help the community better understand the strengths and needs of the youth in our community. The CHS AP Government class took a field trip to Washington, D.C., where they were able to visit the Washington Monument, Lincoln Memorial, World War II and Korean memorials, Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, and Jefferson Memorial. They were also able to visit the Capitol Building, the Smithsonian, Arlington National Cemetery, and they were able to see some peaceful protesters in action. They had hoped to visit the Supreme Court to see the FDA versus women's health, but they were unable to gain access. CHS Spring Sports has had a lot of success, but quite a bit of wind and rain on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week. But the CHS track team hosted a quad meet with Pulaski, Salem, and Hidden Valley, finishing with some outstanding times and distances by the CHS athletes. The CHS varsity softball team continued their dominance and is now 7-0. The boys varsity soccer team is 4-2, and the girls varsity soccer team is 5-2. Today, CHS hosted their fourth and final club meeting, and our CHS HOSA Club will be having their second semester blood drive on April 23rd, and we hope to see many volunteers. The CHS Culinary Department will be making cupcakes as a treat for the faculty and staff at their faculty meeting tomorrow afternoon. As the juniors have been working hard on prom decorations as it approaches on Saturday night from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. with the theme of Starry Night, the CHS After Prom will follow that from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. at the Christiansburg Recreation Center. Games and activities will include mechanical bull riding, inflatable axe throwing, cornhole, mini pin bowling, free drinks and free food, door prizes, and much more. The CHS musical department continues their preparation for their spring musical, Tuck Everlasting. The musical will take place on May 10th, 11th, and 12th, and we hope to see many people there. The CHS continues to have increased participation in their all-in tutoring program that takes place on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 3 to 4:30 after school. CHS was also able to recognize and award 12 students for perfect attendance this past week, and they went to class on time each day. Those students were able to select a $10 gift card to a local restaurant or business for their achievements. CHS will continue their attendance incentive through the rest of the school year. And lastly, seniors are working very hard as we all approach the last day of high school on May 10th, and we are excited for our graduation on May 18th at Virginia Tech. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Kind of forget we just met last week, right? So it's all the good stuff in a week there. That's awesome, thank you. But Naomi, do you have a report from Eastern Montgomery High School?
I do. Since our last meeting, we have had a few updates and are still working on the other upcoming events I mentioned last week. Right off the bat, on April 10th, Spencer Sisson now holds the new EMHS record in the 2-mile run with a time of 10 minutes and 26 seconds. He succeeded after he had already participated in the 1,600-meter race with a time of 4 minutes and 48 seconds. Also, EMHS is excited to be hosting the Corps of Cadets competition for all MCPS Corps of Cadets program on Saturday, April 20th. We will be happy to see all of the other school programs, and we hope to provide a great environment for members, but to keep all of the wins for us. Something new that'll be happening in the coming days and is the EMHS staff member Kiss a Pig. Our agricultural program will be happy to invite the community in for the EMHS plant sale on Saturday, April 27th. It is always a great opportunity for the community to see what our students produce and to also support the program by bringing home something pretty. Seniors have received caps and gowns and making all of the graduation undeniably more exciting. Additionally, our soccer, baseball, and softball teams were undefeated in their games last week with exceptional scores. As for our EMHS band, who performed this past Sunday on the 7th at the Martinsville Speedway, they did an amazing job. They had the chance to meet race car drivers, Miss Virginia, and we've heard that Dale Earnhardt Jr. was also impressed with our band. Finally, to end this report, we wish our school sports the best of luck in the rest of their seasons. They have done a great job, and we're very proud of our boys and girls. Seniors also eagerly await to walk across the stage and celebrate with their loved ones. Additionally, this school year was built on new friendships and the implementation of new activities that brought us all together. Lastly, I would like to report that seniors have decided on a Tangled theme mural for our graduating class of 2024, as a way for us to leave our mark behind and to be remembered. This senior mural has been underway for a few weeks now, and it looks absolutely beautiful. We can't wait to see the final product and have all seniors sign their name on it. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. Is this your last meeting with us at this point?
Yes.
Wow, it's gone by quick, hasn't it? It's awesome. You both done a great job for us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. Okay, great. Next up is public address. We welcome the opportunity to hear from students, parents, employees, and community members about education matters in this community. As a reminder, the board sets aside 30 minutes to start our public address. We have the option to extend in 30-minute increments, which Ms. Osborne will remind us of. If there are additional speakers after 90 minutes, the board will continue with their business meeting and hold one additional 30-minute session at the end of the business meeting. Clock continues through applause and disruptions. The more disruptions there are, the fewer speakers who get to address the board. I will call each speaker up by name in the order that they signed up. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. The board does not respond to speakers during public address. The screens will show when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when their time is up. Please state your name and the area of the county that you live in. And the first speaker up tonight is Kimberly Williamson, followed by Anna Vijayan.
Kimberly Williamson, Christiansburg. Tonight I thought I would tell you why I come here to make my voice heard. It's certainly not because I enjoy this exercise, nor is it for the manufactured presumptions of others. I am simply a local citizen whose heart breaks for the young people as I see them being led through an education system that more often resembles Marxist re-education centers than it does the historical foundations of education and life in America. Ask any number of people who have fled communist countries to come to America, and they will tell you the education shifts in this country are exactly what they saw happening historically in their native countries. I see this happening through such things as the forced appreciation and even celebration of all things LGBTQ, through the drumbeat of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as through critical race theory edging itself in through social-emotional learning, which, by the way, you will hear about tonight, and just why is segregating students part of this proposed curriculum. These things are all talked about in such flowery language, of course, but in actual practice are detrimental to the young people and their families, causing division, strife, confusion, and destruction of lives and families. And I can no longer stand by and watch the destruction of our young people who, like the proverbial frog, are slowly dying in a boiling pot of water without sounding the alarm. My purpose is to advocate for a sea change in the philosophical foundation running through our schools, to once again honor the moral foundation of the Word of God, such as the 10 Commandments or the knowledge that God created a masterpiece in the creation of human male and female that does not need to be changed to be who we are, to truly honor parents once again. This is not new or un-American. In fact, it has only been for a short contemporary period of our national history that biblical morality and the biblical foundational ideas that conceived our nation have not been taught in our schools, and instead have been supplanted by the destructive Marxist ideas now being taught. To that end, I want each of you to know that I am and have been praying for you all. God showed me that if I am seeking to change hearts and minds, then I need to be praying for those hearts and minds. And I do pray regularly that each of you will be blessed in your personal lives, that you would be open to the truth of God's ways, and that you would find true wisdom for every decision you are called on to make on behalf of the schools. This is why I speak. God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson. Next up is Anna Vijayan.
Hi, I'm Anna Vijayan, and I live in District A. Board members and Dr. Bragan, thank you for allowing me to speak. I wanted to explain the email I sent earlier today regarding the benchmark data presentation. I sent all of you basically the same email. So first, I wanted to say that I understand that the issue that I had pointed out with the MAT reading and language assessment scores has now been fixed. So I just wanted to give you that information that in my email, I said that I thought there was some incorrect data that was being used, and that indeed, thanks to Dr. Bragan and Mr. Sizemore, they've updated the presentation. The second thing is that I wanted to explain the graphs, and these are the graphs I sent in the email, and I've also brought paper copies for you today. And so I thought this just might be helpful for you to kind of think about the context of the SOL pass rate data that you're going to see. So you're going to see the data in the form that looks like this in the presentation, and all the slides that look like either this or this, that data has been included in the 4 graphs that I provided to you. But what I tried to do was provide just a little more context. So I just wanted to explain that the blue lines are English reading scores. Dark blue is MCPS and light blue is state. And then the orange lines are math SOL pass rates. Sorry if I said scores. They're all pass rates. So blue is reading, orange is math, darker colors are MCPS and lighter colors are state. And you can see that MCPS generally is doing better than state in both math and reading, so that's something to be proud of. And it also looks like that we're recovering from the pandemic at a faster rate than the state is. So that's also something to be proud of. And I wanted to apologize for kind of jumping to the conclusion that perhaps the benchmark presentation was sort of trying to argue that benchmark should be your curriculum choice. I do understand now that it was simply a data presentation, but perhaps the graphs I've given to you will help you think about that data in a little more context, going back to before the pandemic and then through the pandemic. I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
All right, seeing no one else signed up for public address is now closed. All right, next up is consent. If no one wishes to move an item out of consent, we will consider these items approved. All right, great. Do I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of the financial summary reports?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Franklin, second by Ms. Bond. Any discussion? Ms. Osborne, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guidry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the payment of the bills as presented?
So moved.
Second.
By Dr. Guidry, second by Ms. Bond. Any discussion? Ms. Osborne, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guidry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. That brings us to our business meeting. First up is the report from the superintendent.
Board Chair Hudson, I ask that I forego my report at this meeting for the sake of time, and will update the school board at the May 7th meeting if that's appropriate. Thank you.
No argument here. All right.
My feelings are hurt just a little bit, I'm just saying.
Wow. Next up, on April 9th, the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act Perkins Grant application was presented to the board. Do I have a motion to approve the grant application as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Franklin, a second by Ms. Parton. Any discussion? Okay. Ms. Osborne, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guidry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. All right, next up, Mary Songster Alpin, a volunteer with AFS USA, will present information on the International Student Cultural Exchange Program. It's just a presentation, no action expected tonight.
Is there a way for me to control this? Okay, oh, perfect. Thank you very much. My name is Mary Songster Alpin. I am here with my family tonight, and I'm a volunteer with AFS USA, which is an international student exchange organization. And I am here actually on behalf of all J1 international cultural exchange programs. I'm actually here specifically to ask for a request about the proposal or the policy that Montgomery County Public Schools has. So I'm just going to quickly go through the first part of the presentation. AFS is a longstanding organization, been in existence for over 100 years. We partner with actually over 80 countries, and our mission basically is a global economy and global skills by working with schools around the world and collaborating with others to extend our reach. And our mission is that we feel that we can have individual impact and value by doing that. We help exchange families across the United States, host exchange students anywhere from 12 weeks up to a semester or a year. We welcome everyone, and we also work directly with educators to bring the AFS exchange programs into their classroom. We also foster study abroad programs, a year, semester, and even summer programs. And we do not want financial barriers to be a reason why students cannot pursue these endeavors. So we heavily invest in scholarships and financial aid. And we also welcome sponsored program students through the U.S. Department of State, such as CBYX, the KLES, and the Nestle for Youth. But what I'm specifically here to ask about today is about the school board policies. AFS and all J1 cultural exchange programs highly recommends that school districts across the United States have an official, documented, publicly accessible policy regarding J1 exchange students. J1 exchange students are exempt from tuition requirements in that J1 students and families cannot pay tuition. That is different than F1 students who do pay tuition in the United States. And we also learned that there's no prohibition in Virginia to prevent counting J1 exchange students in your district ADM. We also recommend that the policy has the number of students that every high school is able to accept and under what conditions or parameters, a designated district official for signing placement forms, a designated high school contact for host families and liaisons, that the policy should cover all exchange programs. There should be a time frame by which that the PAFs should be submitted for a specific time frame that the student will be coming, and that the policy should require that each sponsor have a local school representative to answer questions and to serve as the school's local contact. So how does Montgomery County Public School factor into this? First of all, you guys have a fantastic policy. You have it available publicly. It is on your website. It's not on board docs, which is fine. It is on your website, but you do have to scroll or know exactly what search feature to use, what keywords to use. So that would be one suggestion we would make, is if it could be a little more easily accessible. The other comment that we have is that the board policy 7-2.2, you don't specifically exclude J1 cultural exchange students from being charged tuition. And then the third comment is you have a June 1st deadline. This does make placing students in Montgomery County very difficult. Most placement organizations don't even have our students available for placement yet, and that's because of constraints we have no control over, such as country, visa, and the Department of State. If you would consider July 15th, that would make placements much, much easier. We also request an expansion of the policy to include emergency family and welcome placements within the district. These host families would be screened and pre-approved, so it wouldn't be any extra work by you. And we would also recommend that they be included already within your allotment for the school and district CE students. You currently have 3 per high school and 2 from the same placement organization. And then finally, we would love if you would be willing to expand your policy to include semester placements. These are very, very difficult, and I'm out of time. They are very difficult to place because most schools prohibit spring semester placements, and only certain countries, such as Malaysia, will allow participation. But I do want to thank you folks. You have a wonderful policy already in place. It's A+ compared to a lot of the schools that we work with. I've been volunteering with AFS for a number of years, and it's one of the best policies we've run across. And so it's afsusa.org is the website. If you want to know any more information about it, I also have some written information I would like to give you folks. And again, my name is Mary Songster Elpin. My husband, Jim Elpin, and I are actually your local school representatives. So we are here for you. Any questions? Sorry for running over a little bit.
No, you did great. Great job on that.
Okay. Would I be able to hand the paperwork?
Sure. Board, any questions? Anybody have anything they want to start with?
Yeah, this isn't necessarily a question for you in the presentation. Thank you for presenting, but more for the administration. When I was campaigning and talking to community members, one of the things that I heard was that that within MCPS, it's very difficult. That it's cumbersome. The paperwork to host. That's what I heard. And so someone asked me, if I get on the school board, is that something you can address? Is this true? Would this address the recommendations that you have? Would that address the concerns?
It would definitely address some of the concerns. The other issue is that depending on the placement organization, most of our organizations that do J1 cultural exchanges are all volunteer-driven. And then there's a small number of paid staff. A lot of the bulk of that work would be a volunteer helping a potential host family through that process. So Jim and I are hopefully here to stay for forever. We paid enough for our house to make that worth it. So we hope to be here for years to come, and that is our mission, is to get students placed in this area, at least through AFS. And if anyone else was working with another organization, I'm sure we could help direct them to their appropriate resources. The importance, though, of the screening process, I can't stress enough. They have to go through background checks. They have to have an extensive host family application. There has to be site visits. And having a robust local volunteer network will make that much, much easier to do. So I think we could partner with Montgomery County and be able to easily host 3 students in every high school every year without a problem. Okay. Any other questions? Perfect. Thank
Board,
you.
any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time tonight. Okay, next up, Lyle Carrick, Regional Manager of the Nutrition Group, will give a presentation on food services.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the time, and on behalf of Nutrition Group, we're glad to be here. Obviously, this is our 5th year in the district, and we just wanted to kind of give you a little history for the past 5 years and what we see kind of going forward on behalf of everybody that's here with nutrition, which there is actually quite a few people here, so it's always a good thing. So a little history. I know that some of you not been in in your positions for a long time, so a little bit about Nutrition Group. We have been in business since 1975. This is our business. This is what we do. This is what we know. K-12 is a passion. And one thing that sets us apart and a little bit different than all of our competitors is that we are privately owned and operated. We are owned by Ed Caswell. We are now in our 3rd generation of the Caswell family that is in the operation, and we are individually held. We have 18 shareholders, which I am one. Joe Geiswhite, who is here, and Nancy Cole, we're all shareholders inside the company. And the reason why we do that, you have to work in the company in order to be a shareholder. It gives us vested interest to make sure that you all are a success in the process. So a little bit about the partnership over the last 5 years. Kind of wanted to look back from the beginning. When we came in 1920 school year, it started off rough. I won't sit there and say it didn't, but it got rolling. And then COVID happened. And through COVID, there was a lot of change, a lot of different stuff that went on. We fed in multiple different ways. I applaud the group of staff, the ladies and the gentlemen that worked inside the food service department. They made changes continuously on their feet. They were constantly making changes. And over that time frame, we served 2.5 million meals to the students in Montgomery County throughout those 2 years. When we came back last year, it was a struggle. We're seeing that all over the place. It's a struggle on getting back to normal and what service should look like out there. It was a struggle getting staff into the buildings, being staffed on a regular basis, and we're still struggling through that process. It has been we wish we had the magic wand on how we can figure out staffing. But now this year, our feet are firmly planted, and we're starting to see that growth trend go back again. And we're looking forward to, the future and what that can mean for Montgomery County. So we're really founded on 2 different philosophies. It is caring people, and it's great food. So I'm going to touch briefly on the caring people piece, and I'm going to start with the hourly staffing. We can't do it without the ladies and gentlemen that are on the ground every single day feeding your students. And the one thing, and I applaud you all, I know that we were here a couple weeks ago or a month or so ago talking about hourly pay rates, and love the fact that you guys allowed us to increase pay rates and get that started. It's a great start, and I think we have hired 8 people since that point in time and getting them through the background checks and getting them started. And the one thing that we have committed to is having that, we have a regional HR support that is, working with the district on a constant basis to try to promote hiring. We are also dedicated to training employees. We're setting them out into training schools and getting their feet wet in a safety type of area where they're not going to get thrown to the wolves and then just turn around and look out and watch out and leave. We want to invest in those employees. And that's also being done through our management plan here. We have, part of the RFP process was we wanted to put some more management staff, and these management people are all on the ground. They are here, they're dedicated to Montgomery County every single day. So we are going to keep our existing staff that we have here with our 2 operations specialists, our directors. We have our general manager, Kelly Robinson, who will stay. We're adding in our own secretary so they don't have to do that piece of the puzzle any longer. And then we're putting in an HR specialist just from Montgomery County, as well as a dietitian here. So we are invested in making sure that Montgomery County continues to grow as an operation, food service wise. The next piece on that is, the great food. And, girls got to sample some food, tonight. I hope it was good. A little bit of stuff going on. But there are some key programs that we want to make sure that we are doing as we move forward into next school year. The big one is what we call Nutrition for Life. And we actually did this in the very first year of our operation here. We actually did it across the whole district. Every single student in the district was offered a free meal over a week time frame in every single building. And it's something that kind of fell to the wayside. We want to make sure we get back into that. And the program is designed for first-year students. So those kindergarten students that are walking in the door, most of the time they all have their little lunch pails. They're all happy about them. So we wait until we get about a month in, and then we throw a week-long celebration. And it's a partnership between us and our vendors. It doesn't cost the district a penny. And we sit there and give them a free meal and get them through the service lines, try to get that stigma out of the way, and show them what is offered to them every single day. And what we've seen over the course of doing this program, and it's many years we've been doing this, is that we hold about 5 to 10% increase in participation on those students. If we are able to get them eating at that young age, they will continue to eat as they go through the rest of their schooling life. Some other programs that we're doing on a regular basis now, Wellness Wednesday, it's a way for them to be able to try some new and different things. Molly the cow was here. I think one of the snow days, one of the few snow days that we all had this year. Molly was actually handing out meals to students as they're coming through a car line. Farm to Fork, we're going to make a vested interest in getting partnered really strongly inside with Virginia Department of Ag and get Farm to Fork going full board in all the buildings. And then, on the high school, secondary level, Farm to Fork will be there, and we have instituted a feature fave program, and that is to, look at what's going on out there in the regular world, in the restaurant world, looking at the sheets is what are they type of doing, what are kids looking for, and trying to offer some different programs and different food options for them to change stuff around. So these are some pictures, actual pictures. These are all Montgomery County pictures, things, that we're doing out there, and all the different great stuff that's going. And Nancy, if you want to come up, I know Nancy has a little story to tell about her last visit here. So.
Good evening, everyone. As Lyle mentioned, my name's Nancy Cole. I'm president of Nutrition's K-12 division. First and foremost, thank you for allowing us to be here the last 5 years. It's been our pleasure. You're a valued partner, and we hopefully will be here for another 5. But I wanted just to talk a little bit about what I see from my position as some of our competitive advantages. And Lyle touched on that, our caring philosophy. We really try to pride ourselves on that caring culture. And it's been demonstrated when we take care of our people, they'll take care of you. And the other thing that I think that we've experienced in terms of our competitive advantage is our size. We are not the largest in the nation. We're not the largest in the state. But we are certainly large enough that we have our marketing department and our dietitians that we can provide the programs and be responsive. But we're small enough, we're not a real deep organization. As Lyle mentioned, all of us are in operations, me included. I visit accounts. I had the luxury of visiting Montgomery County. And the advantage to you all with that shallowness of our organization, on my last visit, for example, I spent 2 days, walking side by side with the food service directors, talking to some of these amazing hourly employees that you have. and met with Mrs. Knott, our liaison with the food service department, and really listened to their struggles. And I can tell you, before my car hit the garage back home, we had already mobilized some folks in marketing and human resources to start to address and help to make some change in some of the struggles and challenges that we had here. And probably one of the proudest things I think that we were able to do is, as a result of that meeting, is promote Hayden, Hayden Geiswait, our regional recruiter. Hayden had a track record of working in that and making a difference in recruiting employees. So we promoted him after that visit here because we could see that there needed to be another layer in order to move the needle. So we were very proud of that. We basically handpicked Hayden because of his track record, but also for his passion for DEI, and really opening pipelines for us to really recruit the best employees and make an environment where people want to come to work, where they feel engaged and they feel appreciated. So I hope that you agree that that offers you a very interesting perspective, I should say. That's not the right words. It offers you a nice advantage that you have that close contact with us. We're just a phone call away. Every one of my food service directors has my number. So again, thank you for allowing us to be here. It's our pleasure, and we look forward to serving you. And with that, I think we're going to open up to some questions.
Yep, look forward to a continued partnership. I'm going to bring up Joe and Hayden. I am not the be-all of questions and answers, so we are a team atmosphere. So,
Great, thank you so much for that. Board, do we have any questions? Anybody want to start?
Well, I'll begin. The spaghetti sandwich, of course, was what sold me on you guys 5 years ago. Really, really like that. And I like this boba and this little banana split in the cup. That's like amazing too. So thank you for all the dinners that you guys have provided for us when we're here half the day. I sure do appreciate it because that's what gets me through the night. It's always been very good, and I appreciate everything you guys have done.
thank you.
Ms. Pardon?
So thank you guys so much for dinner. It was delicious. And thank you for being so good and feeding our students such great food. I know we've seen an increase in lunch and breakfast and snacks, all because of you guys. So thank you for that. Commend you for that and all of your hard work, and for going the extra mile to work with our employees and work together and compromise as a group. We appreciate that too. Our employees are very important to us, and so to have another partnership come in can sometimes be a little scary, but you guys came in and helped us and made them feel comfortable. So thank you for that as well. And I do want to thank you for what you did during COVID, because it was phenomenal. My daughter went and met the bus every day for lunch. That was what she looked forward to. You guys made it happen. It was an extremely difficult time for the students and for the families, and especially those that probably get some of their best meals, if not their only meals at school. So I know that was extremely hard for you to go through. That's something that I know none of us would have ever possibly imagined, and you all handled it phenomenally. And the whole summer, and we fed everybody. I mean, you all, we never missed a beat. So that was because of all the great things that you guys have done. So one thing I did ask the last group that was here that I'm going to present to you too. And this might be because of the staffing issue that you're saying, and I know that's going on everywhere. That's not a surprise to anyone. I know that we were having some issues with some of the students getting the all of the options for lunch, with having the 3 different lunch periods. And I know sometimes things happen, we run out, and I know a lot of it's due to staffing. Just, could you guys just maybe touch a little bit more on that to kind of reassure? Some of them, were like, oh, well, so-and-so said they had this, but when I got there, it wasn't there, and things like that. So I didn't know if you could touch on that and how we might be improving that, or see what we could do to ensure that, that's something that might improve.
Yeah, as far as the running out or not having enough, hopefully that doesn't happen. We did go through issues with our vendors, as did everyone. But that's starting to smooth out. We're starting to see where we're, if we order 100 cases of whatever, say, chicken nuggets, we're gonna get that 100 cases during COVID and even after COVID. We would order the 100. We wouldn't know that we're only getting 20 until the trucks show up. So that caused a lot of turmoil for our staff to have to deal with all that.
Right.
But moving forward, our goal is the first student and the last student to have the same. And that's something we strive for every day. And to accept anything less, it isn't acceptable. So, and our staff doesn't want to have a student come through and be disappointed either.
Right.
They want all the kids to come through and have a great experience.
Right.
So, we're going to continue to strive to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, and thank you for answering that, because I basically asked that for the public, because I know there's been a lot of questions surrounding that, and just so kids would know, because I wanted it to come straight from you to know what the issue was, and it wasn't that, it was it was things kind of beyond your control a little bit, and we are working to get that better. So thank you for answering that for me, and thank you guys again for all you do.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And you know what? Thank the ladies, because they're the ones that really do all the work.
You here?
Thank you, ladies. We love you.
Dr. Guidry.
Thank you for your presentation. I don't have quite the history. I'm new to the school board. I just have a couple of short questions. You might not have the date in front of you, and it's fine to get that to the board and to me later. One of the things I asked the other vendor is, I know that staffing is difficult, and I'm curious to know, I know it sounds like you've hired somebody to help with that, but I'm curious of what your turnover rate has been in at least the last 2 to 3 years. I don't know if you can speak to, so you've hired somebody, but.
We would need to get that one.
Okay.
It's been pretty fluid, I will tell you that much.
Okay. And so I know that you're going to have parity with pay. What is your minimum wage for your employees in your company?
It varies by region, it varies by state. So, it really is dependent on the individual area that you're in.
How about in Virginia?
So Blacksburg, this area would be more expensive than, say, a Floyd or a Carroll County. We just picked up Salem City Schools. They're going to be at $17 an hour.
In Floyd, let's say it's just some of our.
District employees, so it's a little different, but it's probably a touch less than that. I believe Carroll County, we're starting the subs in that $12 or $13 range.
Okay, great. And then the last question, because I don't want to take too much of your time.
If you don't mind, just elaborate on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
a little bit.
Come up to the mic if you would, also, please.
Yeah. Like I said, Joe Guy's wife, but just.
Thanks.
What the, Taylor, on what Lyle was saying, raising the minimum wage to the $15 an hour was a great first step, but is that the sweet spot? I don't think it is. I think we're going to have to continue to experiment with that and gradually raise until we find that sweet spot where, and it may be the $17 an hour, it may be $15.50, or it may be $16. I'm not sure, but we're going to, especially here in Montgomery County, we're going to continue to progress and experience that until we find that we're able to staff all our kitchens. Because it doesn't matter who is managing your kitchens. Obviously, we want it to be us. But if we can't staff, if that company can't staff your kitchens, you're not going to be successful. Our goal is to be successful, and the only way we're going to be able to do that is to continue to raise that bar until we are staffed and we're able to implement every one of the programs and have all the lines open and have the kids coming through. So that's our goal and what we're going to continue to make happen.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I appreciate that. I have one more question. I can wait until the next round if you want.
If you only have one, that's fine.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we have vegetarians and vegans. I know there was a question that was asked last time about that. For some people, when you ask them what are your vegetarian vegan options, they're like, well, we've got great salads. Can you tell me about your vegetarian and vegan options for our students?
Do you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, I will speak as what we're doing company-wide. Last year, for example, we introduced a plant-based beef crumble. I shouldn't say beef, meat crumble. We have our Impossible Burger. Some of those options are then incorporated into, we do have an entire menu that feature all those items that meet vegetarian and vegan that we can implement to whatever extent we need to in each of the buildings. So we do have more menu items than just what you're mentioning, the salads. We do have those proteins that we're able to. Actually, we're just experimenting with some new chickpea recipes. We just taste tested one last week. So we're always looking at ways that we can expand that variety to the students. It's becoming a growing trend. Yeah, thank you.
I want to finish going around with the board, and then I want to hear from the student reps as well, if you guys have any thoughts. Ms. Franklin. Dr. Roundtree.
Yeah, for vegan and vegetarian options, I was just wondering, like, there are cultural foods that are vegan and vegetarian, tempeh, tofu, so forth. I don't hear any of that in your diets. It's always salads or meat substitute type things. Do you have any of the other cultural protein bases that are plant-based that?
We do. We have a number of schools that use tofu. I can't speak to what we're doing specifically here, so I don't know if we're doing that here, but I know that it is something that I've seen in our schools, and if it's certainly something, that's the advantage of me being here, because if it's a priority for you, I can help make that a priority. Just like the priority with running out of food, you know, where my mind was going as we do summer training, and maybe there's some things that we can incorporate with the staff in terms of forecasting to a few more safety nets there. So we will definitely take that back and provide you with an action plan. So we're going to get you statistics, and we can provide you with an action plan to address that more to your satisfaction.
And with forecasting, how do you handle forecasting in order to minimize food waste?
We're required to do production records. Sorry, come up here. We're required to do production records to demonstrate what we serve and make sure we're meeting requirements. So that's the most valuable tool, is we can look back. Students are somewhat creatures of habit. We do have some cycle menus, so we can look back and see what the trend was, and that's generally the starting point for the staff. We try to also train them halfway through lunch period. Let's take a look around. If you made 100 servings of macaroni and cheese and you've already used 90, chances are you need more. So those are some of the things that maybe we could fine tune the training with to make sure those things don't happen.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Purcell.
Thank you again for the presentation and our meal this evening. How do you all address things like menu fatigue for the students, kind of like mixing things up, making them, excited about different options?
So menu fatigue is a thing. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And we try to work off a cycle menu, and there's multiple reasons why to that, but that's a base side of the menu. Our menus are designed to look at what the popular items are and take out the items that are not popular. And so that's how we change that stuff up. And then we do monthly specials. So the feature faves was part of that whole process of trying to get in some new and different items. And so every single month, there's 2 or 3 different items that come out that can be specialized onto the menu for that month to try to change stuff up. What you're going to notice with our menus is that while there's a cycle to it, it's a 6-week cycle. There isn't a lot of repetition other than the really popular items. High schools always have pizza, they have chicken sandwiches, hamburgers, those type of things, because kids like them, they eat them. There's no two ways about it. But we try to do that home style item. We try to change up that main hot entree. And that is how we, combat that piece.
Thank you.
I asked the same question I did to the last group. So one thing that my kids have always mentioned, I've heard from others, is just the amount of time that they have at lunch often is short, and the time it takes to get through the line, can kind of not leave them with a lot of time to eat or anxiety or that kind of stuff. What do you guys do to help combat that? Any kind of grab and go kinds of things, things beyond just apples and bananas kind of stuff, right?
So we offer a wide range of items. It depends on the individual ability of the building. So when you look at a Blacksburg High School, they have a lot of space to be able to do true grab-and-go stuff, things that are quick. When you're looking at a Christiansburg High School, much smaller facility, still has almost the same number of kids, so it's a little bit smaller. Feeding more kids than Blacksburg is, so there's, you're gonna have a little bit longer lines. It doesn't offer itself to some of that as easily. So we try to mix that into the service lines and try to get them through the best that we can. The It is hard. We're under, the constraints of the building administration and what they're doing as their bell schedules and just try to make it work. It really and truly, to be honest with you, it's going to boil back down to staffing. If we have enough staffing, you can help push the kids through the line and get them through that system a lot faster. But we do offer a lot of grab and go as much as we can. Salad, sandwiches, the burgers, the chicken, all that stuff is ready and easy for them to just grab and take and walk out the door.
Okay, great, thank you. School board reps, any questions or comments?
I guess I'll go first. I know you did mention that you guys are trying to do food based on like popular opinions and stuff like that. I do have a question about how I know there's like a small group of students who do like different types of food because of their cultures, like ethnicities and stuff like that. Are you guys going to incorporate any of that into the menus anytime soon?
Are you looking for like individual like specialty days of?
Maybe like probably, but also just like overall just making like a small like I don't know how to say it. I guess just like a small group of like food that you could like give out to schools. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know how to say it.
I think she's saying like you have like specialty food like you give now and like then, but it's like based off of different like groups of ethnicity and like race and like stuff like that, just to like spice things up.
Yeah.
So theme days, that type of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually something that we should be doing already. It's something that we have struggled to get back into the fold is to do theme type of days, and we can base that around. And speak up if you want to.
Yeah, I will. Some of you met Chef Guy, who was here earlier this evening. He's our corporate chef. And one of the things that he's been tasked with is to really help us up our game in the international flair. And he just has been investigating, and he's bringing some
Indian.
Yes, thank you for the word. Some of those flavors, different sauces and recipes. So we really hope to bring that. It would be interesting to get to a group of students together. And again, I think we should make a mental note. What the high schools that you're in, we can look at that, and maybe there's a focus group that we could sit down with and really understand specifically what they're looking for and how maybe we can incorporate that. I think that would be helpful for us.
Yeah, I do think that would be very helpful, well, for students too, because I have heard, at least at my school, I have heard that a lot of students, they don't really like the food that they eat because it's like almost every single day, and it's just, I do know that our school is growing, especially in the Hispanic community. So
Okay.
they are looking for different types of foods that they normally eat and are more accustomed to. So
Okay.
I was just wondering.
Thank you for that. Yes, yes. So we can get that together before the school year is over, some focus groups. We can do that.
And would you be willing to be part of that group, to sit down and talk with us along with your peers?
Definitely,
Okay,
yeah.
That would be
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. How do you guys decide like what food to send to what school or like the menu and like stuff like that? Like how do you guys decide that?
Well, the process is actually fairly lengthy. We start now and we do sampling. We have our vendors bring in a lot of food items and we sample. We probably go to about 20 different school districts across all of our states and start with sampling. What items do you like? Which ones speak to the older students? Which ones speak? Good example is last year we had the dumplings. Great hit with our high school students, not so much with the younger students. So we start there. Then we just know that there's some of those kid-friendly for the younger students versus high school has a different palate. So our experience has taught us those types of things that we know will hit those sweet spots. And obviously we do attempt to do the youth advisory. I know when I was here last time, one of the things we put together was a student survey. So those are some of the things that we can identify what may not be speaking to your group and what maybe we need to change up. So, those are some of the basic parameters that we use. It's a lot of experience and then listening to your feedback. And obviously you speak with your choices. So, we can see if there's something that's not selling or something that's very popular, we take those things into consideration as well.
So Montgomery, not to interrupt you, but Montgomery is actually part of our taste testing the last, the 3 years minus the
Okay,
COVID
so we
years.
did it here, yeah.
Students, we have gone between the different high schools. So we were at Christiansburg High School, I believe, last year. We were at Blacksburg High School this year. I think was it Auburn, Beverly, the first year? CMS. CMS,
Good.
okay, CMS the first, very first year here. So we're rotating that through so that you get that student voice. You know, you're one of 20 districts in our 265 plus community that, you know, had a voice.
Did you have a two-part question?
Yeah. So the second part, when like we have like multiple of the same items, like in like 3 days in a row, is that because you're buying too much of that amount, or is it because it's like students' favorites and students have like chose that?
Generally, when you see repeats, it's because they're a very popular item. There will be certain things that you'll see every day. You know, pizza's a staple, chicken patty. Most times, if it's a repeat item, it's because it's very popular. It's typically why. And I don't know if you would have an example that maybe would help us narrow that down, but generally, that's why.
Like pizza, I feel like that's a good example. Like we've had like pizza like multiple days in a row, and I just
Yeah,
like,
you're gonna have pizza every day. That's one of our corporate standards because it is a kid-friendly favorite, and it's one of those that is a go-to. We just do pizza every day at our high school levels as much as we possibly can. Try to change up the flavors, different flavors, not every day being the same, but.
Okay, another question.
Sure.
How do you guys like ensure freshness? Because like I know I work at a tech dining hall and we make like big amounts of food for the tech students. But like I know it's sometimes hard to like keep the food fresh or like make sure it's temping. So like how do you guys do that?
Yeah, that's a very lengthy process. Everything is cooked, you know, for the most part, day of service, as close to service as we can get. We have a whole process that's actually mandated with state requirements. It's called HACCP.
Yeah.
It's actually a safety plan, so you know that checks food at every critical point, from the quality when it walks in the door to the temperature that goes on. That's a big training. These ladies out here, probably some of them are ServSafe certified. They're shaking their head. That's one of the things that they learn in that process is how to ensure quality at any point.
The best way is batch cooking too, to hit your point on freshness and quality. So, and it comes back to staffing. As long as we have the staff and we're able to batch cook. So as you know, the first students are going through, we're starting to cook for the next students that are coming in 15 minutes, you know, so we keep that fresh.
Thank you.
Good questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, got some career in food service in there, yeah.
Great questions. Board, any other questions?
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you so much tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Next up, Danny Knott, principal of Christiansburg Middle School, and Joe Caldwell, chair of the Cell Phone Committee, will provide an update on communication and enforcement of the MCPS cell phone policy.
Dr. Bragan, Mr. Hudson, members of the board, thank you very much for allowing us to be here tonight to talk about our new cell phone policy. Really wasn't a new cell phone policy at all. One of the things that I've learned in the different roles I've had in Montgomery County Public Schools is the rule of 3 L's. Whenever I've accepted a new role, I've always followed that, and that is to look, listen, and learn before you make any major decisions, unless it's a decision about student safety. Then that does have to be made right away. After arriving at CMS and once students came in, I quickly saw that earbuds were a major problem. Kids were walking around with earbuds in, trying to keep their sweatshirts, hoods over their heads so that they could hide their cell phones. Kids were growing their hair out long to try to hide their earbuds, and so saw that right away. Could hear them listening to music sometimes as they were walking around the halls. And then they were also using their phones for social app access, social media access, and it was creating some problems for us. And so I quickly learned that, you know, a lot of our teachers were taking time away from instruction to correct students who weren't following the rules, our off and away policy that we had in regards to our cell phones. And so realized there was something that we needed to do. So in October, we started a conversation during our staff meetings, and I'm going to let Mr. Caldwell, who is one of our 7th grade social studies teachers, he's also our professional videographer in our school and creator of our 2 videos that we shared with students. It's Coming and It's Here videos, and then also starred in the second one. He's going to talk to you a little bit about what we did.
So what we did as a committee was we discussed the impact that cell phones were having on learning, but then also the school culture. And we were looking at how certain trends would come into the building. And so we wanted to find a way that we could be more proactive to the phones in school rather than being reactive. And so the committee included staff members from core classes, health and PE, the arts, along with all grade levels. Initially, we got feedback from the other middle schools in the division, and we found that we had similar policies to them, although we knew that something wasn't connecting and wasn't working for us. So we communicated with staff with a staff survey to see how the staff at the building felt about cell phones, and we found that, candidly, that not everyone agreed that cell phones were a problem, but majority of people did, and they were frustrated, and they did want solutions. We, as a committee, looked at 26 different articles. Some were scholarly, some were not so scholarly. We were looking for pros for phones in schools. We were also looking for cons, and we shared that feedback with the staff. And then from our research and our work, we developed a plan that included a couple of changes. One, we updated the plan to include new technologies like smartwatches and wireless earbuds that were not in the previous plan. But we also saw that our current plan at the time was weak and very ambiguous about how the plan would be enforced. And so that needed to be addressed. Before changing it, we shared our changes with staff and we got feedback from them. Again, not everyone was 100%, but there was a lot of skepticism in whether or not the new policy or the updated policy that we had put together would actually work.
So in early February, our students became aware of the work that we were doing and knew that something was changing with cell phones. And they found that out through the rumor mill, probably heard some teachers talking about it, overheard a conversation or something like that. On February 26, we shared the It's Coming video. Is there a way that we can show that, Tosh? I promise you it worked this afternoon when I tested it. So this was our teaser video for our students to kind of catch their attention for what was about to come. On February 28th, there was a communication sent out to all stakeholders, students, parents, people in our community, About the why. Why are we doing this? That was a letter that our committee crafted and approved of, and we shared that. There's a link there. We don't need to look at that right now, but there is a link there for you to see. We talked about the procedures that were going to be implemented, and really that the new policy was really more about enforcement of the policy. We also included in that email, I'm sorry, a page of links to the 26 articles that the committee had looked at. And in those articles, there were articles that were totally against teenagers having cell phones. And then there were articles that said, actually, you know, up to 2 hours a day of screen time is not necessarily a bad thing for teenagers. It's the amount that they're getting in that article that was the issue. So we shared that with our parents. On March 4th, during advisory class, we shared the It's Here video. We have a short clip here. It's not the whole video, it's about 11 minutes long, but we have a few takeouts for you.
It is coming. It is here. What is it? Phones.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Although technically I don't think it is here until tomorrow. Can you please tell me why I was picked for this?
I have been chosen. Farewell, my friends.
Go on to a better place.
Phones.
To make a call, please hang up and try again.
That's just going to be in my way. Today we are talking about the new Christiansburg Middle School phone policy. And while the delivery of the message may at times seem sarcastic and silly, our overall message is not. CMS has always had a cell phone policy. I'm sure you've heard it, but the policy wasn't simple in practice. That's why we would start the year off strong and it would grow into the bigger and bigger. Maybe I should just start out and just read the policy. Can we do that? I think that's a good idea.
3 hours later.
So there's the read through.
Bueller.
So we shared that with our students on the 4th of March, and then on the 5th of March, they knew the policy was starting. It was kind of interesting because the week before, I noticed 2 of our biggest abusers who always had earbuds in, who would take them out when you told them to, but then as soon as they got around the corner, would put them right back in, started not wearing their earbuds the week before. And I asked them, I said, hey, well, did you lose your earbuds? Because I haven't seen them in your ears the last 2 days, 3 days. And they said, no, we're just practicing for next week because we don't want to get them taken away from us. So they knew something was coming. On the March 14th, we did hold a PTA meeting to share and talk about the policy with stakeholders. So what have we seen since then? On March 5th, we actually confiscated 45 cell phones. We did have some students that, you know, wanted to test the policy or forgot or, you know, whatever, but we did take 45. Between then and the end of March, on March 27th, we had a low of 5 at that time, and we averaged about 16 a day for the rest of the month of March. Today, we took 1 cell phone. We had 1 cell phone violation as of today, or today. Some of the things that we're seeing increased noise in the hallways during transitions. We're seeing increased noise in the cafeteria during lunches. Kids are having to talk to each other. I'm seeing smiles on faces, and instead of the cell phone zombies walking down the hallway, listening to music and not paying attention to what's going on around them. Our teachers have reported to us that they've seen greater participation in class by our students. And our students overall seem happier right now. I think that's been reported by just about everyone. We actually had a teacher last Friday who sent an email out to the school that was just thinking how great this new enforcement of the cell phone policy is, because during his IE class, his kids finished the work that they had to do during IE class time, and they had about 5 minutes left, and he allowed them to play a card game like War, I think it was. And there was about 5 or 6 students doing that, and one of the students, they were giggling, they were laughing, they were having a good time. One of the students said, "I haven't played this game in years." And another student then said, "Well, I guess since we can't be on our phones, we got to figure out other ways to have fun." So I think our students are responding really well to this, and our students are learning that they can do things without their cell phone and have fun without their cell phone. And, you know, we certainly think it's going to help improve our academics. I think it's too early yet to tell how significant that is right now. I think next year will be a big year for us. One of the things we also did, we created 2 pamphlets, and I gave you guys copies of them. We created 2 pamphlets. The first one, Cell Phones in Schools, that really was just about our off and away policy, again, that we can give parents at the beginning of a school year so they understand as our new sixth graders are coming in, they kind of know what's going on. But then the other one, Attention Parents. A lot of our parents don't understand that if their children have inappropriate images on their cell phone, that they could get in trouble. And a parent taking that phone away from them could get the parent in trouble, because they could then be in possession of that inappropriate material. So we created these and sent these home to all of our parents with third quarter report cards so that they got those. And these will be something that we present to parents at the beginning of every year, just to remind them of the importance of appropriate use of our cell phone technology. So we're hopeful that next year we're going to see some increases, you know, academically, because our kids are more engaged, and that we're not going to start out the year having the same kinds of problems we did this year. So if you guys have any questions for Mr. Caldwell, he'll be happy to answer them.
I'd like to say a great job. Thank you so much for that presentation and for all the work. I know the board will have questions and comments. I'm going to start with Ms. Bond over here.
I don't have a question. I think it's fabulous. I think it's wonderful. Great, and I think you need to do one of the breakout sessions at Williamsburg Conference because of the video, and because everybody needs to do what you're doing. So thank you. It's wonderful, and on the upright for hopefully all of our schools to go that direction.
Ms. Barden?
Thank you so much for taking the risk and jumping out there and seeing the need and testing it, so to speak. And the outcome was what I thought it would be. You know, I think students are learning that they can live, quote unquote, without their cell phone and find other things to do, and do seem happier. We can't control what goes on at home. I know, you know, they can probably spend a lot of time on it at home, but at least at school, we can help cut that down drastically. I think the social interaction part is very important. You saying the noise at lunchtime and in the hallways, we've lost that. People don't know, or kids don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to socialize, so to speak, other than through this and texting. So we need to get that back. That's important. So I think that's a step in the direction for that. I hope we can implement this across the board. I think it sounds like a horrible, horrible thing, because that's all we've known, and we think we can't do without it, but we actually can. And I don't think it's just for kids. I think parents need to realize it too, because I'll tell you, there's adults that stay on their phones just as much, if not more, than parents do. And if they would do the same things that their kids are doing, and hopefully it'll help with that parent and student and parent and kid interaction, to where that might help resolve some of the other problems we're having. I can tell you it's going to be a decrease in discipline because of it, and not just the fact about the images that you stated, but when we video fights and we do all this, that is a legal issue, and you can get into big trouble for that. And I do not think that our students are aware of how much trouble they can get into with those phones. And so that is something that we definitely need to be let known to the students and the parents. I'm hoping we can implement this again, like I said, all over the school. The videos were awesome. You did a great job. You got down to a level that the parents loved and could comprehend and understand, but the kids enjoyed it too. So that's a difficult task within itself. You did a great job. But anyway, I commend you, Mr. Knott, and you too as well for getting this started again, kick-started it, because we have discussed this for several years, not with just the new members of this board, but since I've been on the school board, and maybe even before that. But, you know, a long time ago, it wasn't such a big issue, but it has grown into a bigger issue, and there is no doubt we're going to see an increased, improved performance in our academics because of it. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
You, Mike.
Sorry.
There you go.
Just because having grandkids that are in sports and extracurricular activity, how does that work? Because I do know sometimes coaches and leadership and then during the day will call a practice or you know, cancel a practice, and they will use text messaging to do so. So
Well,
how did you initiate that?
So our coaches should be using Remind. That's the app that we want them to be
Okay.
using. However, what we've told our coaches is, and our student athletes, don't worry about the text, the Remind during the school day.
Okay.
Contact our athletic director. She'll let us know. And we do an announcement at the beginning of seventh period for any afternoon changes, cancellations, or anything like that. And it could be a cancellation of a practice, but we could have weather that cancels a game. So
Right.
we make those announcements at the beginning of seventh period when we need to. We didn't tell you here, but our students can have their phones and their earbuds in up until the time they leave bus room in the morning. So when they first get to school, they have them in. At 2:50, when they're walking out of the building, we don't care if they've got their earbuds in, if they're on their phones texting, so they can be checking at 2:50 as well.
There's just been some conversation with parents on board with it, but knowing those things happen. And like I said, there are teachers and coaches that do utilize that. So was wondering how you handled that, and that's perfect. Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Dr. Guitry?
Can we come back to me?
Sure.
Thanks.
Ms. Purcell?
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. Thank you so much for kind of approaching it with us with a sense of humor. I hope that really helped with the buy-in. It seems like it from what you shared. I spend a lot of my time with college freshmen. I know they're different from middle schoolers in some ways, and some ways not. And in my experience, they know how frustrating it is to be chained to this thing all the time. They know that it affects them in negative ways. So thank you for kind of like establishing those boundaries at this age. I guess the next question is, how do we scale it for high school? I know that's maybe out of the scope of your terms, but sorry, Ms. Franklin.
I think that's really it. We just got to make a concerted effort to help curtail it in schools.
Just like you shared with me on how you went about the announcements and things like that, that is a lot of that concern, I think, that comes down to, you know, those are some of the biggest questions that I've been asked with it.
I
Dr.
think
Roundtree?
it's kind of like
sorry.
the elephant in the room. Like, I did not know that the transition would go so well. And I did not know that, I mean, I anticipated that it was going to be weeks of conflict. And I mean, really, like, the atmosphere and the culture in the building, it seemed like it changed overnight. I mean, we had those kids that first day and the second day and a lot of phones, but it was just like the culture in the building changed. And it was weird. And so I think it just came down to stepping out and clarifying how it was going to be enforced and being leaders in the building, and they followed that lead. So
Dr. Roundtree?
Yeah, so I'm really impressed with the implementation and the adiabatic change that you managed to have go on and not have that conflict occur. So one question would be if so before students, if they needed to get a hold of their parent for some reason, that's a legitimate reason. Let's say they're a wrestler and they forgot their clothes for practice afterwards at home and they need their clothes dropped off. How do you handle that? Do they go to the office and get permission to call the parent, either with their cell phone or with the school phone?
Absolutely. We actually have a phone. We've had a phone in our guidance office for several years that is specifically for students to use when they need to call home. And our students know that they can go to the guidance office and use that phone to call. If they can't remember the number because we're so programmed to the numbers in our phones and just clicking a name, then certainly we would let them at that time pull their phone out, look up the number, but we would ask them to call on our phone. If they absolutely have to call on their cell phone, we would take them to a location where they're not visible by other students and let them have that conversation with their parent.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ms. Franklin?
Yeah, for decades and decades, centuries, we got along without cell phones and how people got information and parents got called and students got notified. Just what you said goes to the leadership in the building. And I think the changes that have happened in the building where folks understand, you got some leadership now and this is how it's going to be, help to make this smooth because folks understand this is it. It's going to change.
Thank you. It's been a 100% team effort.
Yeah. And again, it goes to the leadership. Okay. That means everybody in the buildings when I say that.
Absolutely.
And I can't remember who said it, but the children know these things are a burden for us, but you can't put it down, right? So I think our discipline is going to really show, and just the interaction with the students, getting to know each other, getting to know the adults, it's going to be wonderful. That's a huge thing for me mentally, to be thinking about how as a culture we don't socialize with each other. Now, some of us introverts, we don't want to, but as a whole, we need that, because when we lose that, we end up with some of the crazy stuff we have going on right now. So thank you for stepping out. And I mean it. If you can think of something just to flash up there in the middle of a meeting to lighten things up, that'd be great.
Yes, I have a question and a comment. I was going to ask what surprised you in this. I think you've kind of already touched on a couple of those things, but I guess maybe anything else, or was there anything that you wish you'd known in advance before you started to do this that you learned along the way that would be helpful for other schools to consider?
I think the big thing was the communication and how it was presented. We talked as a committee about how we couldn't just start this without sharing information with families on the why, and it couldn't just be because we said so. You know, it had to be, we had to provide them with some articles, with some things that they could look at and read and absorb, and everybody's got their own opinion on cell phones, right? Some parents say, you can't take we pay the bill, you can't take that. Well, it's a non-school item, we actually can. We created a safe system for securing the cell phones and making sure that students get the right cell phone back if we do have to take it. Because, you know, when we had 45 cell phones that first day, at the end of the day, it was a little bit crazy trying to get all those cell phones back to students so that they could take them home at the end of the day. But our system worked. So creating those kinds of things, trying to think through, I think would be the biggest thing. And each school may be a little bit different, you know, in how they can organize those things.
That's great.
But the communication would be the biggest thing.
Yeah. So I guess just a general comment then, and this, and I'm looking at Dr. Bragan when I say this, but, you know, these guys started in October with the meetings for a March rollout. and we're in April already, right? It would make sense to me if we were to do this division-wide to start at the beginning of the school year, right? I guess, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I don't know what you need from us is, like, this is an enforcement of an existing policy, right? So, like, do you need a vote from us? Do you just need thumbs up? And how do we even go about rolling out something like this at the division level?
Yeah, well, I think you answered the question already, Chair Hudson, that we have a policy in place, right? But it hasn't been consistently enforced across the division. And I think Mr. Knott and his team made some tweaks to it to include in his practice at the building level, the earbuds, the smart watches, and all that other stuff. That in gathering information from our other principals, those are some of the parameters that they had sought. So I thought the charge that I heard during our retreat was to develop something countywide, which may require us to change that code of conduct a little bit. And some of the conversations that we had that were shared with the principals were, do we want to ban it on buses? Do we want to make sure there's no access at all during the day? Do we want to have access during lunchtime? Those are the discussions we're having with the principals. So the question is this for the school board. Do we want one unified, specific policy? Or do we want to use our code of conduct and maybe include some of the parameters and changes that they're doing at the middle school, like expanding what a cell phone would mean, right? The smart watches and so on and so forth. And yet buildings implement it according to their code of conduct. There are practice and procedures in the buildings, like specifics, like you can use it at lunchtime or you cannot. That's where we left off. So I guess I didn't really answer your question.
You answered my question with another question. That's not fair.
So for me is, we need to be consistent across the whole district so that everybody knows whatever building you may end up in, whenever, this is the way it is. Because I can see kids going from actually elementary school to middle school, but especially from middle school to high school, and things are a little different. And yeah, for me, it's be consistent across the district. And we do the code of conduct and the policy both reflect each other.
I don't disagree with that. But
Yeah, so I do have a couple of questions. One of them is, so I know you looked at research videos, amazing. Thank you so much for the presentation and the laughter. I know you did research, and different schools are doing it in different ways. Some are using pouches. Can you tell me why you landed on what you landed on, which was the off and away versus, yeah.
Well, part of that's because our policy says they're supposed to be off and away and not visible during the day. So we kind of stuck to that. Our teachers also were very leery of the pouches. That's something else they've got to watch in the classroom. Where do you put that in the classroom? If you have a student go up and put their phone in a pouch, are they taking another phone at the same time? And now we have phone theft going on. So we talked about different things. We talked about locking them up in their drawer, taking a sticky note and putting it on it with the student's name and locking it up in their drawer. And we felt like, to protect our teachers, and we felt like we could enforce what we're doing now, it was the best thing to do this way. Our teachers can take a phone and bring it to the office, or they can send a student to the office with their phone, and they notify us, then the student comes down and actually turns it in themselves.
Great, because I did hear one teacher say, if it's my responsibility, I'm not going to do it, basically.
And as a teacher, logistically, it was so much easier just to send it to the office. And it was great support from administration to say, you don't have to worry about documentation. You don't have to worry about hanging on to the device. Just send it down. Okay. And so that was just very supportive on the administration's part.
Great, thank you. Another question I have is about disabilities and accommodations. Did you create an easy process, because students use smartphones for accommodation purposes?
So yes, we have a process for that. We have some students who are diabetic and have insulin pumps, and they are connected to their phone via Bluetooth. So what we did was we gave those students one of our business cards. Whatever grade level administrator they had got a business card, and on the back of that, the grade level administrator dated and wrote they can be on their phone or something along those lines, and signed it. So if they're on their phone and they're looking at their blood sugar levels, then they can show that card to a teacher that may come up and question them about being on their phone. And I'll be honest with you, our students who are in that position are some of the most responsible students that you'll ever meet as far as the cell phone use goes.
Great, glad to hear that. And then I heard from parents questions about security and concerns about security. Have there been questions from parents? How have you dealt with it? How did you talk about security concerns? Like if something happens in a classroom, if there's a lockdown, how did you talk to parents about, to try to allay them of their concerns about what happens in an emergency?
So I would venture to say that in any school in America, if there is an actual emergency, if there's a real lockdown, there's an intruder or shooter, we're not going to be able to control students getting on their cell phones and calling their parents. And our students, most students, carry that cell phone with them, especially in 7th and 8th grade. A lot of our 6th graders leave it in their backpack and leave their backpacks in their lockers. So in situations like that where we have a real emergency, we're going to have to deal with that when those situations come. We're not going to be able to keep them off of their phones.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's enough. Thank you so much.
I'd be curious if the student reps have any questions or comments about this.
I don't really have any questions. I think I'm just going to touch base a little bit with what everyone said. I do think it's a good idea, honestly. I might get a target on my back from this, but
I hope not.
But I personally, with my phone, like especially last year, I was on my phone like all the time, and it was horrible. I had like really bad like social anxiety, and it was just I honestly went through a lot of depression just because I was on my phone, and a lot of stress because I wouldn't get my homework done and anything like that. So I do think that this is a good idea for students. I think with I forgot what I was gonna say, honestly. But pretty much just like I like it. It's a good idea. I'm not against it at all. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it.
One of the articles that we looked at talked specifically about anxiety and depression in students related to cell phone use with social media.
Yes.
And it's a real thing.
Oh, I remember what I was about to say. So about the pouches that some classrooms have, I remember that like when I first started realizing that I should like stop being on my phone during class and just like take a break from it. Whenever I would see those pouches, I would actually put my phone in there, and it actually did help a lot, and it improved my academic and everything. And I think also just like basic respect for teachers and faculty. It's just, it honestly breaks my heart to see students on their phone while teachers are actually trying really hard to teach their kids. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I remember when I went to CMS and I got my phone taken during lunch because you guys banned phones, and it was so scary. Like, it was so scary. And ever since, I've never pulled out my phone, except in high school. I don't know. But thank you so much. But, like, you guys might think we're mad at you. This is from, like, a student's perspective. But, like, deep down, we know what's right. Like, we know that's what's right. And I remember, like, when I got my phone taken, all my friends saw that. They were in shock. And they saw that, and none of them pulled out their phones, like, ever since. And it was like I led by example, bad example. But it taught, like, all of us something. And we all realized, like, me and my friends, we all realized that we were getting better grades. We were happier. I'm not gonna lie. Like, we were happier. And, like, we were just, like, less stressed. We communicated during lunch. And, like, school just felt like school, and it didn't feel like a prison. Not that it should. But, yeah. Like, it was a good environment. So what you're doing is really good, and thank you so much.
Thank you for that. And one thing I forgot to mention it as Mr. Caldwell is a Christiansburg High School graduate, just so we know.
Nice.
It's been a while. We didn't have cell phones, so this wasn't.
One last question. I'm not sure if you guys have experienced this, but have there been any allowances for academic uses of cell phones and how that might happen in classrooms?
Certainly, by our policy, if a teacher wants kids, is using them as part of their instructional instruction that day, their learning that day, certainly they can instruct kids that they can use their cell phones for that purpose. But with everybody having Chromebooks, the need for that is a lot less now. some of the games, some of the things that they play, like Kahoots, some of those kinds of things that they do them right on their Chromebook, so they don't need to use their phones anymore.
Yeah. I know the cameras on the Chromebooks aren't super awesome, so, but yeah.
And one of the things that we did address too was some teachers were using it as incentives. Well, if you get your work done, then you can get on your phone. And then we nipped that in the bud. So,
Got it.
Hopefully.
oh, yes, hopefully.
So I have one. So how do students and when do students get their phones back? What's your process?
So right now, on the first offense, a student would pick their phone up themselves at the end of the school day in which they had it taken away from them. If it's their second or third offense, we contact parents, and parents have to come pick them up. On the fourth offense, parents still have to come, fourth and subsequent offenses, parents have to come pick them up, but then we are also assigning Saturday school for those students. Next year, we're going to reduce that. It's not going to be the same, but we felt like this year we needed to give them a leveled kind of consequence to get started with this policy, but we're going to reduce the number of steps there until we get to Saturday school.
Okay, so I hear you're going to reduce the number of steps because that was kind of like, really? But what about they don't get to bring the phone to school at all at some point if they keep offending?
That would be a conversation we would have with the parent, and we don't have that anywhere, but certainly that's an option that we can use and would use if it's a person, that's just continually violating the policy.
Okay, thank you.
We haven't gotten to that point yet.
Good.
I'd just like to make a comment. If there's, as we go forward with this, and there's parents that, kind of don't like the idea of it, listen to what these students just said. I mean, they just were talking about disrespect to teachers, and we need to hear what they're saying. So anybody who thinks they have an idea, tune into this meeting and hear what our students think about it. So
We should have had you in the video.
we did. They need to be. That's right.
Thank you.
Board, any other questions?
I don't have a question. I would echo what Ms. Franklin said, that I would advocate that it would be across all of MCPS and all the buildings so that there's uniformity. And that probably would require, in addition to changing the student of conduct, addressing some of these issues in board policy. That would be my recommendation as well.
I think the great thing is that you guys have given us that roadmap, right? It's got to be communicated. It's got to have the engagement. It's got to have a cool video. We got a couple of volunteers over here for the video. I mean, I think it's got to be done right, and you guys have shown us what right looks like.
Yeah, great job. Thank you. Just to summarize, so the will of the board is a district-wide initiative with policy and/or code of conduct. I'll bring something back to you all to take a look at.
Does anybody not agree with that? Okay.
You got it.
Right. All right. Next up, Dr. Tony Walker, Director of Special Education, will provide an overview of special education programs in Montgomery County Public Schools.
All right, good evening, board members, good evening, Chairman, and Dr. Bregan. This evening, I'll give an overview of the special education program for Montgomery County Public Schools. We start out with our mission statement. Our department, we let this guide us as we work with a vast and variety set of students with different types of special education, special ed categories, and also with additional DSM-5 diagnoses on top of that. We also have a variety of families that we work with, and so we make sure that we have a partnership with those families, and we also make sure that we have student voice in what we do. And so, so we let this mission guide us. With that said, we'll start off with our agenda for this evening. I'll be covering the special ed by the numbers, and that will just give you an overview of the staffing by the numbers, how students, the name of staff, or number of staff who support the school division special ed program. Also, we'll go over the IDEA Act as well. We'll go over the barriers to student academic and social emotional success And we'll go over to touch base on the special education department needs. We have some of those. And also we'll discuss moving forward what we'll do, So with that said, we'll talk about special ed by the numbers. As of April of this school year, there were 9,695 students, and that comes from our Power School database. And so that ADM, but the ADM on March 31st of 24 is 9,344. That does not include preschool students. And so when we look at the overall numbers, we really should be using that 96, 95 number when we report things out, but sometimes we exclude those others, and we ended up using the 9344. Also, as of April 24, there were 1,405 students with IEPs. However, the Department of Education uses December 1 child count. Every December 1st of every school year, they look and do a snapshot of each school division in the state of Virginia, and they say how many students with IEPs do you have in your school division. Okay, so on that particular day, that's the date and the number at that time, and that's what is used to calculate our IDEA grant funding for the following school year. So although it's 1317, the 1405 number comes in because since December 1 of 23, we've had about 88 students added to our special education population. And so, we'll, and that will cycle every school year. That's how that goes in reference to funding. So overall, it's about 14.4% is our student population percentage under IDEA for the school division. The total number of students with disabilities just gives you an overview of the count of the various disability categories that we have. There are, you see, there are 12 of them. And so, just to give you an overview, we've got our learning disability at 578, which is our highest number. And we've got other health impairment, which is very close behind at 499. And we've got our lowest number is students with deafness. And so these are, again, by the numbers, the primary category. And so we do have a secondary and a tertiary, of disabilities. So for example, somebody could be an SLD, and an OHI. Again, those are teased out by each individual IEP meeting and based on the data at that IEP time. Special ed staffing. In these staffings, they support the school division as a whole. And so we'll start, we've got 3 preschool teachers, 42 elementary teachers, 63 secondary teachers, 2 on-campus training program teachers at Bradford and Virginia Tech. Paraprofessionals, we have 165 educational paraprofessionals, and they are attached to students. So at this point in time, we do not have program aides, which is something that we're going to be looking for in the future to do. Also, we've got itinerant staffing, as you can see, and I won't read all of those because you have that before you at this point in time. And our itinerant staff, they work, they travel throughout the school division at various schools, serving students on their caseloads. Contracted staff, our contracted staff, they're provided through Medicaid funding or other grant fundings that we receive from the state. And so currently we have 4 speech therapists. They're teletherapists. They're not in-county, in-person therapists. The reason why we have 4 speech teletherapists is because of the shortage for our speech pathologists. Again, as you can see, the various related service personnel, PT, OT, also we've got 1 part-time psychologist as well. Okay, again, programming, we've got VPI, Virginia Preschool Initiative, serves 3- and 4-year-olds at various schools. We have a mixed delivery grant, serves with the Head Start program. And so we also have learning labs. We're going to establish learning labs in the school division. We used to have learning labs, my understanding, years back, but the learning labs were dissolved because principals and needed teachers. And so the teachers from the learning labs were filtered into a classroom because our student population grew. And so, and the students that within their learning labs that were being served in those labs were put into classrooms, and so they were serving those students at that perspective, that way. Not the ideal, but again, when you need a teacher, then in the school division, the principals are being held to a standard where they've got to be held to SOL standards, they've got to be held to instruction and a certain level of that. So that's what happened to our learning labs. So we're looking to bring those back to serve students, especially students who are having difficulty accessing, inclusion in the general educational setting. Let me go back for a minute. We have the alternative program at Montgomery Central that serves general education and special education students. Students are there placed by discipline or through the IP process. 2 on-campus training programs, and these are vocational guided programs, Radford University and Virginia Tech. There are 8 students at Radford, and there are 6 at Virginia Tech. And so they are working on vocational opportunities, job opportunities, and so they're also supported by paraprofessionals on those campuses. Federal special education funding. And so I'll probably get into this a little more detail in the next presentation when I go over the annual plan, because you'll see those numbers in the annual plan. But just to give you an overview, again, the estimate for next school year, 24-25, we estimate $2,506,776 for K through 12, and also again $59,999 for our preschool, which is that 619 funding stream. Early childhood special education funds, and so this is what the funding can be used for. It can be used for adapted equipment, child find, again, computers, but we mainly use them for instructional materials. It's a much smaller grant. That grant is used to support 2 paraprofessionals, and whatever is left is for instructional materials. And so that is it in the application that you saw, when you received that through electronic format. Also, again, it could be for therapies, equipment. If the grant was larger, we would probably use many more of those. But because it's such a small grant, and the larger grant is with the 611, which is K through 12 grant. Again, we also use a Medicaid billing. We get that through beginning of the year. Parents do elect to check the Medicaid box. Medicaid funds are used for to buy equipment and educational materials needs for students. And so again, also for Medicaid, we certainly can contract out for these areas, which is PT, OT, speech and language, and transportation. Also, we can look at any nursing, personal care assistants, psychologists, which we do now, and also any BCBAs and registered technicians. Medicaid cannot be used for, again, anything that's supplanting long-term. It cannot be used for teaching positions long-term, and so it cannot be used for capital projects. Anything that the school division gets for all students, then Medicaid cannot be used for that purpose, only for special education needs. Again, the state funding calculation, of course, it's used by the child's average daily membership in each school division, and also that's encompassed with the December 1 child count, and the state used that calculation to come up with the funding for the school division, as well as any other state funds that's determined at that time by the General Assembly, and the governor has to sign off on that. Local funding, of course, this is from our local board of supervisors. They determine the cost at that point in time, so we do implore that you ask the board of supervisors that our department does have needs, and of course I'll go over some of those needs later in the presentation. But again, the local funding does come from that body, the board of supervisors, after this board votes on a budget and moves that forward. Now we'll go into IDEA. Child Find. We as a school division are responsible for Child Find throughout the county for any student with a disability or suspected disability. And so with that, they could be anybody that's homeless, also private schools, any private schools within our school division in our county. We do offer Child Find. Though the principal or administrator at that school can call us and say, hey, I've got a student that I think that has we suspect a disability, we like to do a referral. So we do that as well. We pay for that. Also, we've got children who are homeschooled, who are on individual service plans. We do child find with those students as well, with those families. Child find continued. We also do screenings within the school division. Screenings are at your grades K, 3, 7, and 10. Also, we screen for scoliosis, grades 5 through 10, and also the speech, voice, language, and fine gross motors. Those are the annual screenings that we do, the state requires that we do during the year. We also have to do public awareness. We have, in reference to child find, we have to publicize it. We do that through the newspapers. We do it through the website, Peach Jar. We do that through the Parent Resource Center, and we send a blast out to all of our families as well. And also to all the preschools and local private schools, we have to send a letter letting them know that we have child find opportunities. Referrals, we'll go into that next. So once referrals can come at any time throughout the school year on a rolling basis. And so referrals for evaluation can be, they have to come in this format. That we have to have a description of why the evaluation is being requested. We also have to name the person who is, doing the referral. We have to discuss what the referral is about and whether or not it's coming to a principal or an administrator, and what are the documentations, procedures surrounding that referral. More on referrals. Here is, again, DOE can do a referral. Also, any staff in the school building can do a referral. Parents can do a referral. School-based teams can do a referral. And any other state agencies can do a referral to us. Pediatricians can do a referral. We get those quite a bit as well from physicians' offices. And so when they do, we have 10 days to hold a child find meeting. And so we take it from there. Here is the process from referral to eligibility, and this is how students are identified if they have a potential disability. We get the referral. At that point, once the referral is received, we do have 10 days. However, the 65-day timeline for evaluation clock starts at that point. It does not start at the end of the 10 days. It starts as soon as you get a referral. So if I have a parent who calls me on the phone and discuss and say, I would like to have my child evaluated, the time starts right there. That 65 days start at that point in time. And so what I do is I will route it out to the school. I'll ask, where do you live? Route to the school and where that parent lives, and that school will do the child find meeting within 10 calendar days. We also, at the child find meeting, we review existing data, any data that's on the table, any data that's from the classroom, from NRVCS, from outside agencies that the parents have. Many of our students work with outside professionals. Parents can bring that information. We always consider outside information that comes forward. At that point in time, we determine, the child find team determines, does the child need evaluated based on all the information that we have? If the answer is no, then we look at moving that either to a SAP team to look at interventions, or if the team finds that child needs to be evaluated, then we move forward with that. We get consent from the parent. We go over what components or testings that we'd like to see, and we also get the parents' input on that as well. And so then it's agreed upon time at that point in time as to what we're doing, and then we schedule the evaluations. Again, evaluations have to be completed in 65 days, business days. So let's say we get to the evaluations completed, and we're at the end of 65 business days or before. So we have the eligibility meeting. All evaluations are discussed. Any information that the parent has from outside information that they have, they could have an additional diagnosis. They could have their own diagnosis from another psychologist or physician or psychiatrist. That can be brought forward and considered as well. So everything, the student is in paper form on the table, and we discuss at that point in time all of the information. So our individuals around the table discuss. And for example, let's say I'll move to this here because this talks about the team that's used to discuss eligibility. We have the special administrator or designee. That designee has to know everything about, a lot about special ed regulations. It cannot be just an individual teacher with no knowledge because the designee sits in place for an administrator. And so we like for the administrator to have an that they need to have an administrator license, but if they don't, then they have to have vast knowledge of special education IDEA regulations. The parent, the special ed teacher, we have to have a general teacher that knows about the student and their performance within all of their academics. At least one person qualified to do a diagnostic exam, which could be a school psychologist, speech language pathologist, or a reading teacher. This is the eligibility team. So at that point, the eligibility team, as I mentioned before, discusses everything in reference to what's on the table and any other additional information that comes forward and make a determination. We use state-approved criteria sheets from the state to help guide the team to specific categories. The criteria sheets are based off of the categories that you saw earlier with all of the student numbers. And so each category is referenced or reviewed, and each specific criteria sheet is very specific in how it grasps the information and specific characteristics of that specific disability. So at that point in time, our psychologist reads their report. If there's a speech language pathologist involved, they read their report. All the other reports are read from outside personnel or professionals. The educational report's read. And so all that information is discussed and considered. Criteria sheets are applied to all of that. And then you drill down to the specific areas of need in reference to all the information, what is it saying at that point in time. It is not a voting around the table, but it's a consensus around the table. And so that's how the eligibility is determined. If students found eligible, we've got 30 days to write an IEP based on the needs of the child. And so at that point in time, we schedule another meeting with the parent, and we go over the IEP. The IEP is given to the parent. We like for our IEPs to be given 5 days ahead before the meeting so the parent can have time to review the draft IEP so that they can be able to add or delete or write down any questions that they have to bring to the meeting. And so once we have the IEP meeting, we ask the parent, you did receive the draft. Do you have any questions about the draft? And then they will say, yes, okay, let's review your questions. And we always make sure we get parent input. And at that time, the goals, the objectives are designed based on the student's deficit areas that are found in the eligibility meeting. So that's the IEP process from referral to eligibility, and that's how students are determined eligible within the special education program. So now that students are in the program, we talk about the barriers to their academic success. So we talk about that. So barriers to student with disabilities academic success are hard to fill positions. And as you can see, this snapshot does show over a 5-year period, whether or not there were teachers added to the special ed program. As you can see, at the top, you've got the years. The next, you've got the total number of student with disabilities. For example, in 2021, we had 1,117. We were able to do a 10-to-1 student-teacher ratio at that point in time. However, when we requested for teachers, we didn't get any because the budget is a barrier for us. And so 21, 22, our population continues to increase. Again, we found that no teachers, so we had to bump up to 11-to-1. Each time we bump up that ratio, the workload increases for teachers. So 22, 23, and 23, 24, we were able to get a full-time BCBA. We did ask for that, but we paid for that through Medicaid funds because, again, the budget was a barrier for us, and we could not get any additional teachers added. So here we are for next school year. So Dr. Bregan did, hear, I guess they got tired of me talking, but he did hear to say, look, here are the numbers. So I showed him this chart. Here's what we got. And so he said, Tony, we got to do something about that. And so, Dr. Brigham and Dr. Wickham, and also, we've had the input for also Dr. Widener as well. And so we were able to get 4 special ed teachers, 2 speech language pathologists, and 1 BCBA added, which we desperately do need. And so, yes, we did get that, but certainly need more than that. We have a growing population for student with disabilities. They move in very quickly. We do have their transient as well. But as you can see, from December of 23, we added 88 students. So we have a definitely growing population. Also hard to fill are our speech language pathologists as well. It is a teacher shortage. And so speech language pathologists, again, are a shortage. So again, this shows you the same format as I use for teachers. This shows the retainment of speech language pathologists over a period of time. And so again, it goes back from 1920. As you can see, the numbers, they dwindle. We were able to either add through Medicaid, contracting out, again, not added to the general fund, but contracting out. And so we would rather have them added to the general fund so that way we can have them as Montgomery County Public School positions. It is cheaper and less expensive to do it that way because the teletherapists or the contractors can charge up to $90 an hour. And so that's the expense. So in 23-24, we were able to bring 2 CFY, speech pathologists. That means that they have their clinical fellowship year. We're able to sponsor that for them. And so again, that's through contracted. So there is a pattern of us contracted, but not, getting the positions. However, thanks to Dr. Brigham again and Dr. Weiner, they collaborated and they did raise they did propose to you to raise the starting salary for speech therapists because that was a barrier to speech therapists, applying to our school division because they would see that they were making less or comparable to a bachelor's level teacher, and so that was a barrier. And we lost them to other school divisions. Some we lost over the years, as you can see. We were losing it up and down. And so, but this gives an overview of our speech therapists. And so we are appreciative. Thank you so much for that. The therapists, thank you. They let me know that this is fantastic. We hope to gain other, applications for speech therapists because we are still down 2 therapists. The shortage of qualified teachers, currently we have 110 special ed teachers. Of those 110, 14 are provisionally licensed special ed teachers. And so as you can see, 168 students with disabilities, which are our most vulnerable population, are served by teachers without full educational endorsement licensure. And so, not to say they're not good teachers, it's just that they don't have the full endorsement. And so, with that said, here's a listing of what our teachers who are provisionally licensed has to deal with. Again, students with mental health needs, they're responsible for compliance for federal and state. Again, they have to deal with special design instruction. And so they are trying to get this knowledge through taking courses, while they're teaching. And so, but they're dealing with, our, most vulnerable populations as they do that. So it's a difficult, position to be in, but we have to have the coverage. So we we accept provisionally licensed teachers. And so with that said, that is one of our barriers that we have. Additional barriers are attendance is a barrier. Increased chronic absenteeism is a barrier. Out-of-school suspensions also is a barrier. We cannot suspend our way out of the issues that we're having. And so increased homelessness is a barrier as well. Also on the list is discipline. We've also covered the disproportionality. We covered that in previous meetings. It's a barrier for us. And so inconsistent how we respond to behaviors, it's a barrier. And inconsistency with school-based interventions. We're not consistent across the division of how we implement and how we approach students or implement the interventions that they're at the school level. Again, it is a system issue. We're not blaming any school. It's a system problem that we have. And so we have to look at that as a division of how we fix that. Low expectation for student with disabilities, that does exist at some across the division. Also, I discussed mental health needs. We do have that. Since the pandemic, we have more students that have mental health needs that have dual diagnosis on top of their special education category. And that, again, we have teachers who have these students in their classrooms, but not knowing that because we don't know mental health unless parents tell us. However, some teachers deal with the characteristics and the behaviors from students with mental health needs. So we have to provide additional training for those teachers. And we're not talking overview, we're talking it's an in-depth training so they can be able to understand and be equipped how to handle and work with students of this capability. Also, we've got students who have anxiety and depression. Again, I mentioned the additional diagnosis. We also have reactive attachment disorders. A lot of our teachers don't understand that, and they need training on how to work with students with reactive attachment. You have to approach them very differently, and how they react differently as well. They need to understand that too. Oppositional defiant disorder, mood disorders, these are those additional diagnoses on top of the special ed category. Social emotional needs, again, we working with to foster the DSS involvement there. Also, during post-COVID, students had delayed skills and coping strategies coming from a post-COVID. Also, these are our needs. Based on all of that, we're needing special education teachers first and foremost. And the reason why we need those is to meet the 12-to-1 caseload as we have right now, to keep it the same. We are needing additional special education teachers to effectively co-plan, co-instruct, and co-assess and co-taught classes. Right now, we have a shortage of teachers. Principals are responsible, administrators are responsible for all testing for SOL in all 4 core subjects. However, the teachers are stretched between 4 core subjects. They're not able to do effective co-teaching because they're trying to cover them all. So if we tell them to focus on reading and math, but then they leave the sciences, the social studies, the histories, they leave those uncovered, except for if a student has a paraprofessional, but paraprofessionals are attached to individual students, not the whole class per se. So we need teachers to be able to fill in the gaps there so that teachers can be able to focus in and spend more time in individual classes, individual content classes, versus 20 minutes. 20 minutes, it does not make co-teaching. 20 minutes is a visit in a classroom. So we're also looking to be assigned to, having these teachers be assigned to effective academic and behavioral intervention specialty, such as the learning labs. Those will need teachers as well. We're looking to develop learning labs. Again, one, we're looking at the K through 2 level. We're looking at 2 at 3 through 5. These are where our most vulnerable populations are in these schools. One for Bellevue, high level of autism there. One for Falling Branch as well, autism plus a lot of behavioral needs. Some of the DSM-5 is there as well, as I mentioned, those dual diagnoses on top of special ed categories. We're looking at the middle schools, one at BMS, one at CMS. And so also the high schools, more resource style courses there, a little bit different, but again, to address the overall adaptive needs as well as students having behavioral needs as well. Also, hiring incentives. Hiring incentives for, everybody's offering incentives around us, except for us. And so, again, we've lost many teachers to local school divisions because they pay more. They offer incentives to them. And so, again, the barrier is the budget for that. The budget's a barrier for that for us. Sorry about that. Again, so that goes with speech, OT, PT, hearing specialists, occupational therapists, school psychologists. Everybody is clamoring and fighting for these positions. And so we need to be in a position to be competitive and for these positions. Also, incentives to retain veteran special ed teachers. We need to hold on to what we've got versus adding on, we've got those that are in the system as well, so we need to try to, maintain those teachers as well. We don't have tuition reimbursement. This will be very beneficial for provisionally licensed teachers. There, again, we've got paraprofessionals who have bachelor's and master's degrees who want to go get endorsed in special education, but they can't afford it because they don't make enough money to pay for the courses. So if we have the teacher, tuition reimbursement, that can really help them to, move forward with the programs that are offered at Radford so that they can be endorsed and they can teach. But right now it's a barrier because of their current salary, their hourly rate is low. The paraprofessionals, they're on the front line, right along with teachers. And also, too, some paraprofessionals know the student more than the teacher does because they're with them so much. But again, we need to look at the salary, the hourly rate for paraprofessionals. We're thankful that we got it to 15, but again, the needs continue to be great. And so, again, our student population is very diverse and very vast. Also, we need time on the time for PD on the calendar as well. And we need the time on the calendar for coaching, for addressing social emotional learning. Also, we need to, again, re-roll out several of the initiatives that we rolled out 2 years ago that are not being done with fidelity. We need to re-roll those out to the school division again. That takes time on the calendar. At the end of the school day, teachers are ready to go home. They've been at school all day, just like anybody else, any other profession outside of teaching. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock ahead, you're at home. You're ready to take it easy, except if you've got to do some things afterwards. But staying after for an hour or two for a PD, that can be a long day for them as well. We have to look at FBAs, BIPs, and also trying to work through the teacher mentorships as well. We're finding that we're probably going to have to do site-based training for all of this. Coming down the central office, we've tried that perspective, but driving all the way across town. So we're looking to probably pair schools up, sister schools probably when they're close to each other, pair them up and train, more of an intimate level at their school settings, more site-based trainings going to the schools. We have principal trainings, joint principal trainings. We do we give them the information there, but we're finding we're probably going to have to go back after that training and do site-based follow-up with them. And so that way we can kind of take care of that there. So what do we do moving forward with all of this? We said for provisionally licensed teacher, for this summer, we're going to offer 2 weeks paid professional learning opportunities for provisionally licensed teachers and also for those teachers who are 1 year in. And so this will, this training will help fill in the gaps that they have. We're trying to get them ready for the next school year so that we don't have to really do a lot of it during the year. So we're trying to jumpstart those individuals. And they'll cover these areas here, such as compliance, maintenance, file maintenance, IP development, classroom management, anything that deals with their positions or their jobs, we're going to try to work with them over the summer with. Also, what we'll do about it is we're going to partner. You've heard previous, presentations over the past couple of months, and we're going to partner with all departments, at the central office. Instruction, we're going to partner with student services, partner with, the Office of Equity and Diversity as well, and try to really figure out what can we do to help the school division to maintain the trainings, maintain the skill sets, get the skill sets, and so that we can be able to be successful and so that we can be consistent throughout the school division of how we're working with students, addressing their needs, and so at the same time providing support to the schools as a whole. So these are resources that we have that we completed this presentation with. At that point, the ends of the presentation. Any questions from anybody? It was a lot.
Thanks for your time there. I definitely appreciate that. We'll go around for questions. Any board members want to start?
Okay, so when it comes to our IEP and our 504 evaluation teams, what type of training is required for that?
The trainings required, they have training annually and during the school year. I can talk about the IEP trainings, not so much 504 because that's not my purview. But the IEP trainings, they are trained. We do train-the-trainer model where we bring our leads down, and our leads will go back, train the special ed teachers. We also do trainings in reference to IEP information as well, for teaming as well in our principal meetings. And so we make sure that their principals are aware of how we're training their staff so that we are getting both the administrator and the teachers. We also train the related service personnel through separate meetings, making sure that they know how to operate, function as an IEP team member, and also making sure that they're able to interpret the data and the information for the IEP team. And also, we were making sure, last school year we did, it was something that came down from the Department of Education, is that we make sure that all school members on an IEP team understand their role as IEP team members. And probably that's something we need to re-roll out again, because that was a division-wide perspective, because that came out of the JLARC review. When JLARC came through, there were many things, and so we took some of our trainings from the JLARC review, which was a 2-year study, and found a vast number of non-compliant issues across the state of Virginia. So IEP team was one of them. So we, again, we're probably gonna have to repeat all that information, to show the modules, what's involved in an IEP team, what's the role of the IEP team members, and so how do you interpret, for these related service personnel, how is data interpreted? And so again, also too, trying to make sure our job is to educate parents as well. They're part of the team. And so we make sure that we educate them as well with the trainings that we have. We do that through SEAC. I filter information through SEAC. We filter information through the Parent Resource Center so that can blast out to parents. They offer training to parents as well in reference to IEP development, what's involved, so that they are well trained and so that they can be active members of the team. So I will say that, it's not 100%. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and stand and say that it is, but it's not. And it's something that we have to continuously work with. And so because the reason being is because we have new teachers, new administrators, sometimes on an annual basis, and we have to retrain them. So it's an ongoing training, for the IEP team.
So one of the things you also mentioned was more time on the calendar.
If we could.
And what exactly do you mean by that?
Just any additional PD days for the calendar.
I know at one point, I think we were bringing in our paraprofessionals and they would get like 1 day. And we increased that, didn't we?
We did not. We asked for 2 days, and we only got 1. That was at 1 year, I think it was 2 years ago. We asked for 2 years. We asked because they come back 1 day before school starts. Right. It is not enough time to delve into their school assignment, which is the student, to know their disability, to meet with their parent, to walk them through the school, to get acclimated with their file. It's not enough time. So we asked for 2 days, have them come back 2 days before. So, and we ended up with 1 day.
So throughout the years, listening to some of our folks talk about that, so I'm thinking that they need the whole week, just like the teachers have, to come back and understand the student, and to have our teachers understand the student and the different disabilities and the characteristics and how things can be made better for the classroom and for the student. Because quite frankly, what we do right now is not working well at all.
The paraprofessionals do ask for training. We try to include them in a lot of the training for teachers. We make it available. We're developing a hub of training, and that's going to be open to anyone. It's going to be open to administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, and we'll try to filter that through the Parent Resource Center as well. So any additional time for paraprofessionals, I agree that they will need, but they do ask for training. And remember, I did talk about, we've got some paraprofessionals with bachelor's and master's degrees who want training. They want to be teachers. And so again, anything additional they can get will help.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Renfrey?
Yeah, so how are the teachers trained for when a parent or somebody else approaches them and says, my kid's having trouble in school, I think they might have something that needs to be addressed, a disability or whatnot?
At that point, that sounds like a referral. And so that either comes to the school administrator or the case manager. And so then if it comes to the case manager filters that, with the administrator and let them know we have a referral, parent referral, and a meeting is scheduled, within 10 days. If it's a child fine meeting, 10 days. If it's a student who has an IP already, then that is scheduled as soon as possible. And so they meet and they discuss the issue at hand, the parent's issue, and so that team, determines, hey, if it's a legitimate issue based on what's presented, then certainly that can be incorporated into that student's IP. And so again, based on the data as well, and so, but that's how that happens. So, parents can call an IP meeting at any time.
And does every employee in the district know that that's the case? And is every employee in the district required to forward that reference on? So if it's a paraprofessional, if it's a janitor, if it's a teacher, what level of person is responsible for forwarding those referrals on?
If it's a paraprofessional, the paraprofessional is collaborating with the case manager. And the case manager's job is to take that information straight to the principal, let them know, hey, also to bring in the lead teacher as well. We have a parent referral or a parent request for an IP meeting, and so that information is brought forward. That is the job of the case manager, per se. A lot of it goes through the case manager because they are case managing the student's IP. Everything in reference to the student's IP program, the case manager, does.
Right, but for somebody that doesn't already have an IEP?
For someone who does not have an IEP, again, that's a referral, and that follows the referral process that we discussed earlier. And so that referral can be by phone, by letter, or by in person. A parent can ask for a referral.
But to any employee of MCPS, and then it goes to the correct person?
Yes. For example, usually the referrals don't come through the paraprofessionals or the custodians. They come through the case manager, and so they're more in touch with the families if there's any other need. However, if there are additional needs, parents are requested or to be sent to the school, straight to the school administrator. For example, when as a parent called me, 2 weeks ago, I had a parent call me, a preschooler. I would like to have my child evaluated. Oh, ma'am, sir, may I ask the reason, why? She explained what's going on. I said, okay, what's your address? Where do you live? Because I want to make sure I route you to the correct school in your zone. And so at that point, the school takes the referral. So that's coming through me as a director. If it comes through the principal, the same way. If it comes through a case manager, the same way. If a parent says something to a paraprofessional, we like the paraprofessional to work through the case manager. And so then follows the same pathway.
And when you referenced the case manager several times for a new IEP, who is a case manager?
Special education teachers.
Okay.
Are case managers.
Good. So in general, usually a parent would be talking to not necessarily a special education teacher unless the child already has an IEP. They'd be talking to the teacher of the student, or just the general class teacher.
Right. If they don't have an IEP, then they're touching base with the general ed teacher. Again, a referral can come from the general ed teacher as well. There have been referrals to come through general education teachers. The general ed teacher again, brings that to the administrator, and the administrator, makes sure that the team's assembled.
Right.
Yeah.
And what kind of, so I've been exposed to some that are parents that are not necessarily talking in the same linguistics as what the educational professional is talking in, but are definitely expressing that they think that their child has a need. What are kind of those vague requests that you see and you educate your teachers on, that even though this is not saying, I think my child needs to be evaluated for an IEP because I think that they have XYZ disability. What are those things that get brought to the teachers, or when you're training teachers, an example of a vague request from a parent that is not quite hitting on what the professional might be requesting, but what a parent that doesn't know the linguistics would be
Well,
requesting?
a parent may say, my kid has attention issues. And so we say, okay, well, can you tell me more about that? So we try to tease out, try to guide the parent as to give us more information as to what they think. So to me, attention issues could be ADHD, ADD, it could be, or it just could be the student has a hearing issue. And so we have to tease out that. But if a parent asks for a referral, then that comes to the child study. At that time, based on the information that's coming forward, when the parent explains what's happening, what's going on, at that point, we say that, well, we ask about hearing. We ask, how's it going with the hearing? Did they pass a screening, hearing screenings, in the earlier years, or did they pass a school hearing screening? And so we tease out those different types of nuances, at that time and at the child study meeting. And sometimes it's that the child, has wax in their ears, and so they have trouble hearing. And so, those things are teased out. Or it could be, or it could be that the student has a hearing issue, and so that is moved forward, through the child study process, through evaluation. Sometimes the parents do come with, they say, sometimes they don't understand what they have. For example, they say, I've got this report, and this report says something about attention or hearing. And so we sit down with the parent and we go over that with them so they can understand. Our job, too, is to educate not only students, but to educate families as well, so that they can understand what's going on with their child. Otherwise, we have a child with a possible disability that's outside of the school somewhere or in the general population, not being served.
Thank you.
Ms. Rousseau?
Thank you so much for this presentation and all of your time tonight. I know it's a lot. So my question is about, are there like some, you talked about some inconsistencies, like inconsistent response to behaviors, inconsistent interventions that really need a refresh and a reminder so that everyone across the division is on the same page. But I am wondering, is there some kind of, this is a term that we all learned in a presentation that we had earlier this year, some kind of pattern analysis where you can see from the data that you get about student discipline, like, you know what, transitions are really a trigger. Getting on and off the bus, getting from PE back to class, lunchtime, or other things that maybe like are there some holistic changes that could be considered? The only comparison that I've been trying to put together as I've been preparing for my turn to ask a question is something like curb cuts or like grinding down sidewalks so that they're not jagged. Like that's an ADA compliance,
Yes,
like
ma'am.
but it helps a clumsy person like me not trip on the sidewalk when I'm trying to just get to the mailbox or whatever. And usually better design, even if it's for a few specific people, it benefits everyone a lot. Are there any things that you kind of like patterns that you see, or kind of like, wow, if we could just do this a little bit differently, we might not be having these consistent triggers that are just setting kids off?
Well, we do have a pattern analysis form that we use for discipline for students who are suspended from school, and then whether or not there should be a manifestation determination review held or not. And so that pattern analysis document is utilized. And so that document will show you, are there patterns in the behavior that is resulting in suspension? And if there is a pattern, then we need to hold the manifestation. And so, but if it's not a pattern, then it lets us know that we need to look at the students being suspended for various different types of things. So that's a tool that we can use to put additional supports in place for students. Has it been used consistently? No, it hasn't, being transparent with you. And so that's one of the trainings that we have recently have discussed with principals, I think in our last month's training. And so, again, that's something that was rolled out, 2 years ago. And so, again, it has lost, its traction within the division. And so, therefore, you have the inconsistencies with that. So that's one of the areas that, we are going to be rolling out again. We did with principals. We'll do it again with all of school-based staff so that they're aware. And so that's one example that I can give you that can lead to additional supports and wraparound services for students. We don't wrap services around students as we should. Not that no one is, I believe all teachers are working hard. All administrators are working hard. But we're not consistent with the initiatives and the school-based supports that are at the disposal. And so that's being transparent with you. And so that's something that those are in the trends. And so hence the reason why I asked we need additional training, because it's a systemic problem. And it's, I always tell the staff in my office, you'll ask them, whenever there's an issue, it's our department. It's not one coordinator or supervisor or director. It's our department. We're all painted with the same brush here. And so that's what it is. So these are division things that we need to look at. They're division trends that we have to fix, and that we are not, being successful at doing that. So we need to, find out what the root cause is. And so the root cause is inconsistent, whether or not. So that's the reason why we are looking to do on-site training. And so versus bringing, we can continue to bring them down for group trainings, but we're going to have to go to the schools to do the follow-up on-site trainings to make sure that things are being implemented with fidelity. And so that they learn, these things. And so I do believe that teachers have a lot in their wheelhouse, but I don't think they have all the tools in the wheelhouse, because our population over the past couple of years has changed. And in reference to our department, student with disabilities. So we do have the additional, diagnosis on top of. And so we do have several students that are having more difficulty accessing inclusion. And so, the goal is to equip teachers and administrators with additional information that they need in order to support students within the school setting. And so that comes with, the training. One other thing we're going to do is we're going to resource map each school. And so we're going to go through each school and say, here are the students with disabilities in your building. And so we will train on those disabilities only, and we'll give them an overview with all 12, but we'll map those schools and say, here are the ones in your building right now. And we're going to train teachers on those so that that way they can be able to have more knowledge and skill working with those students that are in their classrooms in reference to disability. That includes wraparound services, supports, all interventions that are at their disposal in the school setting. And so, that's the training that I'm talking about. It's systemic training. It's division-wide training that we need to do. And so, it's not going to be easy, but it's what's needed. Otherwise, we'll have students continue to fall between the cracks.
Thank you. I'll let other.
I've got a quick question. I'll go ahead and slide it in here. On slide 29, when you have the needs for MCPS Special Education Department, and you kind of broke out by the different school levels, the teacher needs. Are those numbers accounting for the positions that we have?
Is this like time?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are those including the positions that we have in the budget for next year, or are these in addition to that?
So these are additional because learning labs require a teacher. In the classroom, they need teachers. But the learning labs, again, are an area for sensory, an area for de-escalation, and an area also for instructional, instruction as well for students to filter in and out to go back into the gen ed setting. When students have difficulty in a gen ed setting, they're there having an episode, or that's when you have the classroom disruption. Doesn't help the student, doesn't help the classroom. So we need spaces, we need safe spaces for students to go, and for staff, a teacher there to work with them, to de-escalate them, along with their instructional assistant, and to be able to work them, and then they're able to go back into the classroom setting at that point in time.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Vaughn. Ms. Parton.
I've got one quick question.
Sure.
Thank you for this. Lots of information. Some we knew, some I
Yes,
didn't
ma'am.
know. So this is very, very informative. I'm going to touch on something I don't think's been mentioned. So I know I'm very concerned about not having enough for the ratio for the teachers and what we're losing and what we need. So you mentioned leaving for higher pay.
Yes.
To some other areas.
Yes.
So do you think there's anything else other than pay that might
Yes.
be part of the reason that we might be losing some of these teachers? And if there is, could you possibly share that and maybe
Yeah.
give an idea of maybe something we could do to try to fix that issue?
It's the workload.
Okay.
The workload, as I mentioned, when on the slides here, for speech, we were down 2 speech pathologists, so we had to bring a teletherapist in, and so we had to rearrange the entire speech, division speech caseload. So we have to, K through 2 is in person, 3 through 12 is teletherapists. Now, teletherapy is, it's research-based, it does work, but it's not ideal. In person is ideal. And so that is a barrier on the speech pathologist. The workload is increased. Also, too, we had an abundance of referrals. And so we're still feeling the remnants of COVID. A lot of students are qualifying because they didn't have access. A lot of your preschoolers and your kindergartners, didn't have access. And so also to special ed teachers, anytime I raise that ratio, that workload increases. And so also too, because we did not have teachers, they're stretched between four core subjects, and they're spending 20, 30 minutes of time in a classroom, sometimes 10. It's not enough. And so they're stretched, and so therefore that increases the workload as well.
Right.
And so, so workload definitely, compensation, workload, those are significant barriers.
I get it.
And the principals are trying to do their best to support them. However, and so when they call me, I can only give what I have. And sometimes we rob Peter, pay Paul. And we do that and to make it work. And so what rob Peter, pay Paul is dig it into the schools. And so that's when I have to up the ratio to make teachers available. And so, but it's, that's what we had to do. So workload is one of the areas, and so that's what their teachers are telling us. Principals have said, Dr. Walker, we will co-teach, however, I need the teachers to do it. And so that's legitimate.
Right.
Yeah.
I know the state sees the need and they know it's just increasing.
Yeah.
So my thought is maybe we could see if we could get more help from the state, reach out to legislators, delegates, to see if maybe we could get some more possible funding so it wouldn't have to come from our budget.
Sure.
To help, kind of shorten that gap as far as what we would have to put out. I will touch on what you said about the reimbursement. I'm all about helping somebody further their education. I think that's great. And So what most businesses do, if they're going to pay for education, there usually is a contract
There is.
attached, because that would be my fear, is that, so we're putting out money to help someone get their education, so we pay for that, and then they're going to turn around and leave and go somewhere else, but we're the one that's fit the bill. So I would be all about that, but I would think if we did go that route, possibly at some point in the future,
Sure.
I would think we would need to have a contract stating that you would have to stay at MCPS and work for, I don't know, some places are 2 years.
2 years.
Some places are more. So that would be something that we could count on, having somebody there and not leaving after we have helped them with their education.
No, that's legitimate. 'Cause actually, I did that going through school, taking additional courses. I did that at a previous school division.
Yes.
And mine was 2 years. If they
Yes.
paid for a course, I had to stay 2 years. And so you sign it. You do sign the document.
And hospitals, a lot are like that. Actually, my daughter's looking into that with her nursing program. And so if she gets a job at the hospital, they're willing to help pay for education. But there is a contract stating, if we help you with your education, we're kind of expecting you to help us in return, and we have a time limit. We need you to stay here and do that. So I would foresee hopefully that we might, if we do go that route, we would have something attached to that stating you need to stay here and help us to kind of even that out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That is fair. We're also looking to do that with our RBT program as well.
Okay.
We did lose one, because we didn't have that in place. So we're looking to do something like that in the future with our RBTs as well.
Okay.
Let's say 2 to 3 years with us.
Right. This is a lot of information, a lot
It
of
is a lot.
time. I know it is, and I know you've been up here talking, and I'm sure you're tired and all of that, but thank you so much for everything and all of this information and the numbers. Very helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Guthrie.
I want to thank you as well. I know that this presentation took a long time to put together. It was a lot of effort, I'm sure. And also, I appreciate so much that our special ed teachers and paraprofessionals, I appreciate their dedication. I know it's late in the evening, but I also know this is a really important conversation. So hopefully a couple of the questions can be answered fairly briefly.
Sure.
So I'm first off, are special ed teachers also serving students with 504s?
In the classroom setting, no. The 504s, they're mainly in gen ed settings. They have their own team, 504 committee. So I'm sure I'm infringing on Jason's comment. Jason says, okay, keep going. 504s, they have our 504 coordinator who facilitates the team there. They have their own 504 team. However, for example, if a student is not eligible for special education services, then we may tell that parent, we think that we could go to the 504 team to see if they're eligible for 504. It's not a guarantee, though, so we say we may. And so some of that same information from the eligibility, that when they were not eligible, some of that same information can move to the 504 committee to be considered for the 504. So, but they're in gen ed, supported by gen ed teachers. They are supported by accommodations. The difference between 504 and IEP is IEP are services, 504 are accommodations and access to the general curriculum. So that's when they have basic accommodations. But if you have a 504 that has a slew of accommodations, that's a red flag. That means we may have missed something for that student, and we may need to go back and relook at that kid. If they have that many accommodations, primarily that could be an IEP for services.
Okay. So I'm looking at this chart right here, and you have 17 as the number, but that's the December 1 count.
That's December 1 count.
So we're at 1405 right now, correct?
We're at 1405 right now.
So if you add 4 more special ed teachers, that would be 48 students who are served, which is well below where we are right now.
Those 4 teachers have already been assigned.
Okay, so we're still going to be underwater.
We're still underwater.
By how much?
Probably another 4 teachers.
So that's assuming we don't have any more. That doesn't lower that ratio from 12 down to 11.
It lowers it for right now, but as our population continues to grow, we'll have to relook at it on an annual basis and say, hey, we need to look at this and see No, we do have students move in and out of the school division. So we do those checks 3 times a year. We do them in early spring. We do them at the beginning of summer, and we do them right before the administrative retreat, so we can tell teachers, principals, here are the number of teachers based on students that, and we go over the ratio with them there at that point in time. But students move in and out of the system. And so, yes, we do get 88 students moved in since December. Those students can move out. Some are very transient. They're moving between Radford, Pulaski, us, Giles, other school divisions. But again, some are moving in. So, yeah, your question is a legitimate question. Yes, we can start off, again, underwater. It's based on who moved into your school division.
Right. So a couple of months ago, I asked Dr. Widener and got assurances that we have enough staff to meet our IDEA and 504 obligations. But what I'm hearing here tonight is that we don't. That we're not able to meet our obligations currently. Because I see a gap between our obligations and what you say we're able to do right now.
Right. You're right.
Okay. So I know discipline has come up a lot in the presentations. I had asked before, I think about FBAs and how many FBAs are being conducted for students who have disciplinary action against them. So how many are you doing, would you say? After some disciplinary infraction, are you routinely doing them? Because what I've seen is that in some of the cases that I've observed that there haven't been any.
Well, I'm being transparent with you. We're inconsistent with them.
Sorry, say again?
We're inconsistent with doing them.
Okay.
The actual number I can get for you. I don't have the actual number per se, but I do know that there is some difficulty. We did roll this out 2 years ago. Student Services and Special Ed and Equity rolled the FBA BIP process out 2 years ago, and we also rolled out documents for general ed students. General ed students can have an FBA and a BIP as well, and so special ed as well. So there is some difficulty and inconsistency with the gen ed students receiving the FBA and the BIPs. So counselors are trained to do those, as well as other individuals are trained to do those. So there is some difficulty there. So that hinders the retraining we got to do. Is it consistent across division? No, it's not.
Okay, so you're not doing them routinely.
No,
Okay.
but there are some teachers, administrators, schools are doing it correct, and so but others are not. It's not consistent. I can't tell you it's consistent when it's not.
Okay, and MDRs. I don't know if I asked this question, but how many of those, and you can do just rough estimates, are ending in determinations that the behavior is a result of a disability? Because I've seen cases in which you look at the documentation and it sure seems like it is, but the box checks no. Can you speak to that issue?
Yeah, mainly we have the very, very low number if it's related to disability. And so has there been some related? Yes, there has. Very small number. But then again, you have to, at that meeting, you have all the information, all of the people that's working with the student, and they're discussing what's going on with that child. And so then at that point in time, you come to a consensus of, is it related or not related? Did a disability cause this or that? But the number is extremely low because, for example, you got a student with ADHD. ADHD didn't cause you to strike someone. So that's, you have to tease out the information. You have to look at the action at hand and determine during that time, was the student in control? Was the student, then you look at the disability. Did the disability cause the student to do that? Was the environment calm? Was the environment, free of issue? Was the student calm? Were they regulated? And so, if so, then again, the student is knowing what he's doing. So has there been issues where students are based on cognitive ability, knew what they were doing? Yes, there's a small number of cases where that has been related. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm curious, and I'd love to get a little bit more data on that, because of
Okay.
course, if there's a disciplinary issue and it comes before us, it's going to be,
We have, we've done too many MDRs this year for the reason because the pattern analysis document was not completed. And so I did discuss it earlier. So if, and that's the reason why you do an abundance of MDRs. Really, you shouldn't really do that many MDRs. An MDR can only be done when there is a pattern. If it's not a pattern, then the MDR is not required. And so that's something that we did train the principals on last month. And so, again, that's the information that's going to be training with all the school-based staff as well.
in addition to suspensions as well, you have to do the.
Same thing, suspensions, yes. If they're suspended, what was it based on? And so you look for that pattern. If they've been fighting for 3 days straight, three times straight, then that's a pattern. If they were fighting once, if they were leaving the classroom once, if they were, having their cell phone out, those are inconsistent patterns, so no MDR for that. If they're suspended for 10 consecutive days, an MDR is required. If they're suspended for 10 days, but it's no pattern, no MDR is required. It's not a pattern.
Okay, so I'll leave this aside. So I had someone reach out to me and they said, the information in the slides, great, this is how you're supposed to be doing things. This is not how it's being done in MCPS, at least not universally. So I'll just be honest with you, I have grave concerns about, and this is nothing personal against you, but about the services that are being provided and whether we're actually meeting our obligations. I'd recommend to the administration of the board for there to be some audit of our special ed services, just to make sure that we're at the very least being compliant, because at one point in time, people were moving to Blacksburg because of what we were doing with special ed. And I would love us to aspire to that kind of reputation.
They still are moving here.
They're moving here, but
yes, sir.
Yeah, you know what I mean with that.
Yes, sir. I understand.
And one final thing. Are you aware of any families that have been told that they need to wait until next year to have an evaluation for a 504 IEP? I got a suggestion that may have been communicated. Are you aware of it all? So if a family hears that, then that's a red flag, and that they should get in touch with you, because that should absolutely not happen.
Yeah, that should not happen at all. 504 I couldn't speak to, but if someone had been told they had to wait for an IP meeting for a year, that's highly inappropriate. That's illegal.
How about the 504?
504, same.
Okay.
If they can't wait for a year to have
or it's just to the next academic year. I just wanted to make sure, because you and I know that would be illegal.
Was there one in place? What you mean, a 504 meeting or an initial?
An evaluation.
No, they should. No, you can't wait for that.
And I can't validate that, but I just want publicly so people to know that they shouldn't. If there was any suggestion of that they should reach out to you.
We should address those like we do IPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, initial IPs.
Okay. Sorry.
Board, any other questions or comments? Okay, great. Thank you so much. I think we have a second presentation as well.
Yes, sir.
This is for the summary and update of the special education annual plan application.
This will be quick. There are no changes really to the annual plan. We continue to support the initiatives that we have in place now. The annual plan, again, is mainly staffing. And so I just give you some updated numbers is what I'm giving you here. You have that electronic form as well. So again, we talk about the 24-25 grant. It's based off of 23-24 grant allocation numbers of $2,566,765. We talked about the funding streams. I didn't mention that earlier in the previous presentation. K through 12 is 611, and you have that number again, 619, that preschool number there. Again, here it shows, and so at that point, as of December 1, we increased by 73 students as the time of the snapshot. It was 73 students. And you can look, it was from December 22 is 1244. December 1, 23, 1317, an increase of 73 students. And so, and then you have the allocations from the previous year of 22, 23. And so then those numbers, based on the December 1 child count, the state calculates the numbers, and then they give us the award amount. So the annual plan is always an estimate because it's always based on the previous school year's December 1 child count. Again, just goes over, and this information was in the actual, the green application that you received. This is there. 611, which is K through 12. You have the amount there, 2.5 million. And mainly it's staffing, 21 full-time special ed teaching positions, 40 full and part-time special ed paraprofessional positions at various schools in the division, as well as OCTP programs at Radford and Virginia Tech. $134,000 for contracted services, which are for speech, OTPT, vision, autism, CPI training, AT, professional development, and also for our registered behavior technician initiative. $56,468 is for the set-aside amount for private schools. These are for those parentally placed students that are in any private school and within Montgomery County. We have to set aside a certain percentage of the grant for those child find evaluations. So we evaluate, but we only provide speech and consultation services, direct services for any going to a private school, but we offer the IEP services at Montgomery County Public Schools. $70,663.76 are for the continued initiatives that we have in the school division that we support as well. 619, which is that lower amount, and this is where we have the 2 paraprofessional positions, and we also have a proportionate set aside 952, and the 2,153 is for materials and supplies for preschool. And I think that is it for that preschool. That's it for the annual plan. Any questions on that?
Board, any questions for Dr. Walker on the plan? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
There's a lot of information tonight, but it was really helpful. All right, next up, Jason Gerritsen, Director of Student Services and Safety, will share a presentation on Section 504 plans.
Thank you, Chair Hudson, members of the board, Dr. Bragan, good evening. I did try to get Mr. Knott and Mr. Caldwell to produce a video for me for tonight, but unfortunately just fell apart in the contract negotiations, so you're stuck with me. I am lucky in that I can follow Dr. Walker in regards to Section 504 because it does tie in with some similarities and then some distinct differences from special education. So I hope I can answer your questions and also move through the presentation fairly quickly. Section 504 is based in discrimination law. Its origins are in the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, so it lives in a different law than special education law. It's one of the first laws to prevent discrimination against people with disabilities. One of the main purposes is that we ensure that people with disabilities, students with disabilities, have equal access to education. Just like Dr. Walker said, in special education, his focus is specialized instruction or services. Our purpose is equal access. A little bit different. In a school setting, the 504 plan outlines how the how the school will provide supports and remove barriers so that the student can learn alongside their peers in the regular ed classroom. It's pretty straightforward for us as far as determining eligibility. An eligible student must have a disability that substantially limits one or more of the major life activities. Most of the time, we are focusing on the major life activities of thinking, concentrating, or learning. Some other examples do include caring for oneself, walking, seeing, hearing, speaking, breathing. So we may serve a student who has ADHD. We also may serve a student who has diabetes. Along those same lines, the 504 team, just like an IEP team, works with the family to develop accommodations in the plan. Once that plan is written, the school has an obligation to do what is included in that plan. We have a responsibility we have signed our names and said, we're going to do that plan. Unlike special education, there is no federal funding provided for Section 504, so we don't have those issues always that Tony may have or Dr. Walker may have with staffing and the funding that comes along with it. All of our folks implementing those Section 504 plans are regular staff members that we already have who are taking on 504 responsibilities in addition to whatever their other assigned job is. And I would like to take just a quick moment and say one of our coordinators in the Student Services Office, Melissa Hipple, does a great job doing the direct day-to-day oversight of 504s for the division. We also have a 504 coordinator in each school building who is typically, could be a teacher, could be a teacher, could be a school counselor. At times it's been an administrator, but each school has a designated coordinator as well who is doing this work in addition to the other work we employ them for. Overall, we have about 622 students with 504 plans. That's about 6% overall. And again, going back to our eligibility based on substantially limiting a major life activity, we're not bound with categories such as Dr. Walker and special education with the DSM-5. Typical referral route. Parent guardian can make a referral. The school or school team, a teacher or the school team can make a referral. It could come out of SAP. It could come out of an IEP eligibility, like Dr. Walker said, or it could just be that English classroom teacher that says, hey, I noticed this about Jason. I think this could be a disability. I think he could use, or at least be considered for some support. It could come from a doctor. It could come, again, from a full evaluation out of spec ed. And this isn't realistically, or I guess truly a referral, but also if a student transfers to us from another division with a 504 plan, we generally bring that plan in, hold a meeting to make sure we can meet the accommodations and continue with that plan. The eligibility process is very, very simple. To Dr. Guitri's question, we absolutely should continue to be taking referrals if they're coming at this time. No one should be told they should wait till next year. Our process is very straightforward and very simple compared to special education. Again, we are looking to see if the disability substantially limits a major life activity. Our guidelines and our requirements are less stringent than special education. We receive the referral. We try to mirror the special education process, so we try to hold that initial meeting within those first 10 days. We pull together the 504 team for that specific student. We reach out to the parents and say your child has been referred. We do have a referral form that's available online, just that, if that's a convenience. We don't have to have the form, but just to make it easy, that's available. In that first 10 days, we pull together the team, reach out to the parents, ask them for their permission to continue with the process, the evaluation. If those parents are agreeable, and they typically are, they join the team as well. They become part of the team. We sit down and we have that meeting, and again, the discussion is there a substantial limit on a major life activity? If it is determined that yes, there is, we then typically move directly forward into writing the plan. We typically do eligibility and writing the plan in the same meeting, the same day. Once that's determined, we write the accommodations that go into the plan. We collect the signatures at the end, and then we distribute that plan to the child's teachers, and typically the game plan is that plan takes effect the very next day. Very straightforward. Our school-based coordinators typically can run these meetings. If they have any questions, Ms. Hipple will go and help as well, if needed. As far as maintenance of services, every plan gets at least an annual review. At least once a year we touch it and make sure those accommodations still make sense for that student, have an opportunity to talk to the family and the team and say, anything need to be added, anything need to be taken away. Additional meetings can be held at any time. They can be requested by the school or they can be requested by the parents. The school can say, hey, Jason seems resistant to use his accommodation about leaving class early. How about we come in and talk about this? Or the parents can say, hey, Jason's having a really hard time in the middle school getting from class to class. Could we sit down and have a discussion about his plan and see about adding some accommodations for helping him with tardiness? Just as some examples. Student gets a reevaluation every 3 years, just like in special education, or if there's a new diagnosis or suspicion of a new disability, we'll come together and go ahead and do that reevaluation at that time. We also do MDRs, or sometimes called causality hearings in 504 land. We will also hold those when the student has been out of school as part of disciplinary action. Again, Dr. Guitry, just to follow up on your question, I'm aware of 3 this year that were determined to be manifestations of the disability. If the student appears to need specialized instruction, if we begin to see, so if there's an issue or a concern that can't be resolved here at the division level, parents can reach out to OCR and express a concern or a complaint there, and we would then work with that federal office for resolution. Again, the video might have been much, much better, but that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Board, any questions?
Can I ask a question? Is it typical not to have dedicated staff for 504s?
I've worked in 3 school divisions, and that's how it is everywhere.
But they have other responsibilities and they just do 504s on the side?
Yes, sir. One of my first jobs as a building level administrator, as an assistant principal, I was the 504 case manager for my school. And again, the accommodations get carried out by the regular classroom teacher.
Right, but if like there's an MDR meeting, that they have to be there, correct?
That would be the regular 504 team. And then for us, Melissa Hipple will go and serve as kind of, you know, that shouldn't be something that happens super frequently. We don't want that to be happening a lot. So she goes in and basically stands in as our division expert for that component alongside the regular 504 team.
Right, so they would be part of that, and for the annual evaluations of 504s, they would be involved in that. So that's a lot for some of our schools.
It's, 622 students across the division. Yes, sir, there are some schools, we have, I don't have it written down with me, but I believe we have at least one school with over 100 504 plans. Yeah,
because that's another thing I've heard, is that it's just overwhelming for some of these folks.
And when you look at it for just the annual meeting, that's 100 meetings at that school.
Yeah, I don't know how we're able to meet our obligations when 101 school and this is on the side. I don't know how you do it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Board, any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you, sir. Next up, Mr. Gertzen will present an update about the social emotional learning curriculum adoption process.
Thanks, sir. I am pleased to be here tonight to provide the board with an update about our work in social emotional learning, or SEL curriculum. This is coming out of the MCPS strategic plan. I can just give the reference there on page 27. We have an action step that says the division will implement a research-based SEL curriculum for all schools, including Montgomery Central. I would like to offer an explanation for that. At the time, back when the plan was written, there was debate: is Montgomery Central a school? Is Montgomery Central a program? And the writers on that team wanted to be sure Montgomery Central was included. So that's how it got added, kind of separately by itself. Currently, the work we've been doing targets implementation to 2024-2025 school year. So we're looking forward to, with board's approval, moving forward to having this in place for the next school year. I add just a couple links there that we won't take time to look at right now, but there is a video for any of our folks out there maybe watching or listening to the presentation tonight. If you're not sure what SEL is, there's a nice video there that explains it in just a few minutes. We also have a link to Virginia's guidance on SOL from the VDOE website. We do give you just a little graphic there from CASEL. CASEL's kind of the industry leader in SEL curriculum. CASEL is a collaborative for academic, social, and emotional learning, and they give you what they call their key five. When we talk about SEL, they talk about the key five, which includes self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Those are the big, broad categories that we're talking about. Of course, lots of little lessons underneath, but that's the big picture, or the big five, as CASEL likes to call it. You do have several presentations tonight, I understand, following me about some other curriculum. And I do have just a slide here that talks about kind of some of the similarities and differences. For SEL, for similarities, Virginia does provide some standards similar to the SOLs. So we've got some SEL guidelines provided by the state. That's the link that I had on the previous slide. We tried really, really hard to utilize the textbook adoption timeline that is kind of standard in the division, even though we're not specifically talking about textbooks. And there's some other differences. We tried to mirror that just for consistency's sake. You may remember we came out and gave you that timeline back in October of last year that we were beginning this work. We created a division team to review various programs. It really just is not productive to have this just being one or two folks in a room. We tried to involve a team with lots of different perspectives. We are currently providing an opportunity for public review so we can get feedback from staff who maybe were not a part of the earlier team, or from parents and even from students. And of course, right now we are bringing it before the school board, ultimately for your approval. Tonight is just kind of an update, and at the next regularly scheduled board, we'll bring it back once again. Some of the differences, even though we have standards similar to the SOLs, there's no assessment associated with SEL curriculum, right? Our students are not going to take a test, or a year or two down the road. We will do our best to measure impact of any program that you approve, but there's not going to be like a score or a mark or a standard coming from the state of Virginia. And then another big difference is the Department of Education does not provide us an approved list of SEL materials, where they may say, hey, here's a list of history books to choose from. We kind of have it wide open. We can start at any place and choose any material. So really, really broad look available to us. We do know there are some challenges associated with SEL and the SEL curriculum implementation. This is an additional cost, and we just have to put that first and foremost. Budgets do matter, and budgets are important, and we know that you always have to make tough decisions that many, many times will come back to money, and this is a cost that we have not been incurring over the last several years. So that's a new thing, a new expense. We know that there are concerns around some of the content that could be in some of these programs and family beliefs. You heard that kind of mentioned even tonight in public address. We also, we've been collecting information, feedback back from the community. We've already also heard some of it there as well too. I will tell you, when we reached out to some other neighboring divisions, just speaking with them, they shared that as well, right? Like, it could be controversial, or it could be offensive to some families or some parents. They could have concerns around it. And of course, we have to find time for it in busy school schedules, right? We spend a lot of time teaching math, language arts, science. This is one more thing that we would like to put in that we do feel could be very beneficial to our students, but there is a matter of time. It's a finite resource. And then, of course, we also have the workload of our employees. Somebody has to do this. Somebody's doing this work. As we talk about 504 folks and staying on top of that work, there's also who is the responsible person for this. In simpler terms, we really, really talked about what is the program, when does it happen, and who is doing it. Okay? Let's talk quickly about our adoption team. We had 49 members on our adoption team. The adoption team included administrators, school counselors, and teachers from all 20 of our schools. We did have 2 division staff members, myself and again, Ms. Hipple from our department. I'd like to thank those folks publicly right now. They've done a great job. in fulfilling the responsibilities and the duties of the adoption team. Some very good conversations about what is good and what is bad, and what could we anticipate as we move forward on something new like this. We reviewed 3 separate programs in January on the January 5th workday. Those 3 programs came forward based on recommendations from our schools themselves. Our schools themselves had some programs they were interested in. We chose some of those programs based on what some other divisions around us were using. When we called and said, what are you doing? What are you trying? What do you like? These were names that kept popping up. And their alignment with the CASEL standards. Again, research-based, coming from a strategic plan. On January 5th workday, we spent 1-hour Zoom presentations for each of these companies. So 3 hours of Zoom. Again, thank you, adoption team. But again, we basically had time for each of those presenters to give an overview of their program, to give us a demo, to give us a walkthrough, and then answer some questions. And if anybody's interested in kind of how that looks, even though, again, it's not the most flattering video, those are available on our website if you'd care to take a look at them and watch an hour's worth of the speaker and, unfortunately, a lot of times my face because I was the host. So hang in there if you're watching those. We collected feedback based upon those Zoom meetings. And in the end, when we talked to our adoption team at the elementary and middle school level, they chose the same program. They believed Move This World was the best program for elementary and middle school students. Our high school folks believed that Ripple Effects was the best program for our high school students. Some highlights for each company, and I won't read all these off. These are straight from their website. I will say that Move This World really focuses a lot down there on the bottom where they talk about their community engagement tools. They have a lot of family resources that are available as part of this program as well. Families could use those at home if they choose. For Ripple Effects, they really like to focus on 9 different modes of learning. They try to get at different learning styles for the kids. And they also talk about their peer videos. In terms of videos, our high schoolers would be seeing videos of other high schoolers, right? It's not a presentation from me. It's a video from somebody or presentation from somebody that they should find a little more relatable. So currently, where we're at, the public review process is in place. We are collecting feedback. We actually put this out right before spring break. And it's been out there. It's linked on our division website, so anybody can go take a look at it. On the main page, you just scroll down a little bit, and you'll see it down on the bottom right. It's clickable, and then you've got all the materials in one place. We did share this information also directly with 2 of our advisory committees, the School Health Advisory Board and the Mental Health Advisory Committee. They both got it direct to their mailboxes, their email mailboxes, and have been discussed at our last meetings. The flyer that's been provided that has a QR code that takes folks to the website, that's been sent out twice now on Peach Jar to all 20 of our schools. I say it went out twice because we did send it first. We released the information right before spring break, but we knew people had spring break on their minds, so we waited and sent the flyer just after we got back. And then we did have some folks express in terms of the feedback that they had some difficulty finding some things. They didn't quite understand how the demo worked. So we actually went in and improved some of the information that was on the website, gave some directions, gave some other links, corrected a web page that was, or web link that was broken. So we pushed it out a second time and said, hey, this is still here, and we think we've made it even better, more useful. We've also asked our schools to share this information with families through their normal communication tools, whatever the school uses. And I can say as a parent of a student at Christiansburg High School, I have seen it in the information coming home to me as a parent from Mr. Gwynn at CHS. And we will continue to collect this information at least until our next meeting. So feedback thus far, and I will go ahead and tell you we've already got some updates since we loaded these slides in here. At the time, you can see very, very clearly there in the upper left-hand corner, there were only 17 responses at this point. Full disclosure, we're up to about 24. We'd love to have more. We hope to get more after tonight's presentation and after hopefully there's generated more discussion in the community. But at the time, you basically see across the bottom, a score of 1 is strongly disagree, leading up to 5, strongly agree. And the first question there asks, hey, the program seems to offer appropriate content for the assigned grade levels. And you do see right away, you've got some agree and strongly agree, and then you've also got some strongly disagree. And I think this speaks to the earlier slide where we said there is some division in the community. There is some question in the community out there as to, what is this material? Is this something I want being taught at school to my child? I will tell you, with the additional responses we've received, these have kind of moved evenly, right? We're still at a similar kind of split. And again, pretty polarizing in terms of no 2s and no 3s. And again, we'll bring you those new numbers when we come back next time. Question 2, we're talking same scale. We're talking about it seems to offer sufficient content, right? We have 180 school days. Do we feel like there's enough material here that we will be able to have enough to fill up our 180 days? That's not saying we will do every single day, but what we do want to be sure is we don't have a program that gets presented to teachers and then the teacher looks at it and says, yeah, by January, I'm out of stuff. We want to make sure there's plenty of content. And again, you see those responses. Notably, we do have more of a neutral report here with that 23% there that says, hey, I'm kind of neutral. When we look at those numbers, that's primarily from parents who just say, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much material a teacher really needs. I can't answer that question. And the last question that we shared tonight talks about, hey, does this seem like it's easy to use? When we go back to that question of workload, what kind of workload are we putting on staff? This goes back to saying, does this seem like it's ready to go? It's user-friendly. This takes a lot of work or not? And you see the responses. And again, we've got some neutrals there again too that are primarily coming from parents who just say, yeah, I don't know. I'm not in a position to answer that question. I will bring you updated results next time, and we do hope to have more responses next time. The other piece I will share is there's also a narrative, so I'm getting narrative responses from folks as well. So as we bring those forward, we'll have those as well. I will share that some of the first few narratives were those responses saying, hey, I can't get the videos to work. Hey, it seems like maybe there's a broken link. And we've went in, for anybody who may be listening or watching, if you went in and responded and felt like there were some things lacking or missing, we've improved those. So I'd encourage anybody to stop by again. And if you haven't stopped by on our website, I would encourage folks, staff, and community members and families, of course, to pop in there and give us your honest feedback. So that's an overview of where we're at right now. And again, the intention is to come back to the board next meeting to present once again, but I'm happy to try to field any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Garrison. Board, any questions? Who wants to start?
You're tired.
The later you go, the less questions you get.
So with that said, it is getting close to 11 o'clock. And just how much more are we going to be able to absorb with these next two presentations, or can they be pushed to another meeting?
I agree.
That's a good question. How many of these do we have to do tonight in order to meet timeline requirements?
I think we have another meeting on Thursday. Your call.
Yeah.
There's 3 more presentations. There is a timeliness to the ELA one and the other textbook adoption too.
Yeah, we do have the meeting on Thursday. That's an option. Board, that's a bit of an agenda change mid-meeting here. Is that? we proposing that we move the next 3 items to Thursday night? Is that what I'm hearing?
Would that then make, that was going to be a closed session to deal with particular things, would that then be
Well, yeah, we'd have
partially
to-
public?
We'd
and
have to
then
completely change that agenda,
Okay.
but that's doable. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know the timeliness of the two, in particular, the science textbook and the ELA. Can they wait to Thursday? Can they wait to later? Or do we need to get them done this week?
We're also meeting the following week too, right?
Yeah, that's also a closed session, but
I think we could do that if we wanted at that point too.
okay.
We had other things we were going to do before that meeting or after that meeting, right? We proposed some interviews.
Yeah.
We could change that around. That maybe provide us more time and give us a chance to advertise it publicly and within those windows.
Okay.
If that makes sense to all of you. Then Thursdays doesn't have to be all that agenda. It would just be that one item.
Prefer for myself next Tuesday, because 2 nights a week going to 11 or 11:30, it's just too hard. I can't. Takes me 2 days to overcome getting home at midnight as it is, so.
Okay. So we're all in agreement to move these next 3 items, and we'll pick the best date available. Yeah?
How much longer is left to, what do we expect to spend on the next 3 items?
I don't know.
30 minutes, hour?
I think we should move them,
Okay.
because we
We
still
have
have a
closed
closed
session
session
after
after this,
this,
correct?
Okay. Not sure that's, I don't know. Who's our parliamentarian here? We're changing our agenda mid-meeting. Is that cool? All right.
I would assume we'd make a motion to amend the agenda, and then you would vote on it, and then we would move forward.
Ooh, wouldn't that be a tabling? Is that right? Are we tabling those 3 things? No. Yeah, I guess we're not really voting on any of them, so we're just moving presentations. So.
It's just an agenda change. You weren't voting on any of those tonight.
Okay.
I move that we amend the agenda to move the remaining items to the next, is it a business meeting or is it a work session or a business meeting? To the special meeting on April 23rd.
Second.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All right. Ms. Osborne, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Franklin? Dr. Gitcher?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. All right, then we'll skip ahead to unfinished business. Board, are there any items of unfinished business? Are there any items of new business? Are there any announcements?
Yeah, so I have a correction on my announcement from last meeting on SB 283. So SB 283 was originally proposed by the Senate to provide lunch and breakfast to all students. However, during its trip through the House, it was reduced to a bill to provide a study on what it would take in order to provide free lunches and breakfasts. So we will have at least another year until that is provided to our students. Sorry for the mistake on my part, and sorry for that we won't be having food security for all students in Virginia. And I would also like to say thank you to Price's Fork Elementary School for Fine Arts Night on April 11th this past week. It was a great time with 2nd through 5th graders performing singing on stage. And then also on April 12th, or April 11th, 12th, and 13th, CMS Theater performance of Xanadu. It was a great performance. I attended on the 12th.
Me too.
Me 4? Board, any other announcements? Okay, great. Upcoming meetings, we've got a couple in the next week. Yeah, Rach? A lot going on. All right. Closed session. Do I have a motion to enter into closed session as authorized by Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia to discuss a student matter and a personnel matter?
So moved.
Moved.
Whoa.
Second.
I think Dr. Guidry and Ms. Purcell. Any discussion?
No.
Ms. Osborne, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? No. Dr. Guidry?
Yes.
Ms. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed.
Motion carries.